Ultra, Godzilla will be Ultra's mentor. Chapter 1. Earth. Nuclear power plant. Jack lay in the chair, silently watching the sunset, constantly thinking about his next move in his mind. That is steel, no. Steel nuclear fuel rods. Hey, Yake, why are you here so early? I remember you were working the night shift. A middle-aged man pushed the door open and said with a hint of surprise. That's right, Jack's current job is security guard. Arrive early and lie down early. Wu Fuegui frowned slightly at the look of playing badly. Yake, I'm not saying anything bad about you, but you're only in your 20s. It's better to go out and work hard for a few years than to work as a security guard in a nuclear power plant and retire. Wu Fuegui's nagging did not cause any ripples in Yake, who still looked indifferent. I have been out there for many years, and now is the time for me to retire. As he spoke, Yake glanced at the blue box in the upper left corner of the eye mask. Name, Yake. Race, Human/Godzilla. Travel points, 1030. Note, due to the lack of activation energy, the Godzilla in your body and the travel tunnel are in a dormant state. Please find a trigger with huge energy as soon as possible. Yak is not a native species of this world, but has traveled to this world for more than 20 years. This monster tourism system is also available at birth. Yak needs to go to famous scenic spots and strange places to check in and take photos, and he will get points for time travel. When he was 10 years old, his parents unfortunately passed away, and Jack received a large amount of compensation. He then began a life of traveling around, checking in, and taking photos. Now all he needs is to unleash his energy. That's why he showed up at the nuclear power plant. In today's world, is there any energy more powerful than nuclear energy? Why are there so many travel photos in your moments? Have you been to so many places? Wu Fuegui was scrolling through his phone and exclaimed, the Egyptian pyramids, the Great Wall, the Forbidden City, Mount Tai, wow, you are really good. Hehe. Yak smiled slightly and didn't say much. Although they were all places of historical sites, the points that could be obtained were still too few. Only those magical places or creatures would give more points. For a full 10 years, Jack visited unknown places and experienced many local customs and cultures. He even went to places like the Middle East where there have been wars for many years. He was able to survive only because of his tough life and the benefits brought by Godzilla. Gradually, it became darker and darker. Yake was bored as he watched the celebrity talent show on his phone. Hello everyone, I am a personal trainee who has been training for 2.5 years. In order to reduce unnecessary trouble, nuclear power plants are mostly located in remote areas, so there are very few people flowing in, let alone at night. Under the orange light, Yake turned his head to look at the snoring Wu Fuegui and called out softly, Uncle Wu, wake up. Perhaps he sensed something. Wu Fuegui did not wake up, but just changed his posture and continued to sleep. Okay. It's time. Yak smiled directly at the Dragon King, then slowly stood up and pushed open the door of the security room. Normally, nuclear power plants have very strict management, let alone such a large nuclear power plant, where even going to the toilet requires someone to accompany you. But the other person who worked the night shift with him had to take leave because of something at home, so only Yak and Wu Fuegui were left. What a God-given opportunity, what a waste. The dark road was not easy to walk on. Jack stimulated the energy of Godzilla in his body and gathered it in his eyes. A pair of deep blue pupils appeared. Suddenly, the street that was originally unclear became clear. Using his extraordinary reaction and physical strength, he successfully bypassed the patrolling security guards and arrived at the location of the nuclear fuel rods, the nuclear reactor. I gently pushed the door open and tiptoed in, only to find that the lights were on inside. There are even a few special people guarding it. How to do? Yak was a little annoyed. He couldn't just leave like this. With the risk of being fed by the government and being subjected to sliced section experiments, there is only one way to go. After making up his mind, he didn't act immediately. Instead, he took out a green-headed fish headgear from the space provided by the system and put it on. After getting ready, Jack suddenly jumped up, stepped on the guardrail, and pounced towards the security guards. Who are you? A sharp-eyed man was about to shout when he was knocked unconscious by a punch from Jack. Who? The others also reacted and turned to look over. But what caught my eye was a green fish head. What's the matter? Everyone was dumbfounded. Why was there a green-headed fish here? Jack didn't waste any time, he rushed forward and hit them on the head. In a flash, the two sturdy security guards were knocked unconscious. This is the benefit brought by Godzilla. Although he cannot become a complete Godzilla now, as long as he gets the reactor. Thinking of this, Yak's heart felt hot and his hands moved more quickly. What kind of monster is this? The three security guards who were still standing were completely dumbfounded. The guy in front of them actually knocked a 200-pound, 1.9-meter tall strong man 3 meters away with one punch. Is that human being? But no matter what he's going to do, stop him. The leader signaled to the other two with his eyes that as retired soldiers, they must not retreat. Stop him. Yes. The spirit of sacrificing one's life made Yake scratch his face in embarrassment. Why do I feel like I'm the villain? After that, two burly men approached and locked the intruder with their bodies, turning around and shouting, "Quick, sound the alarm." What the hell? Don't talk about martial arts. Yak reacted instantly, exerted force with his arms, and actually knocked the two men over. Beep. 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 In just 2 seconds, alarms rang throughout the nuclear power plant. Damn miscalculated. Yak was speechless for a while. He still underestimated the execution and reaction capabilities of the state's violent agencies. Hee. No matter where you come from as a spy, surrender now and maybe you can get a light sentence. The team leader covered his sprained arm and looked at Jack calmly, trying to lure him into the trap. Leniency. The corners of Jack's mouth twitched slightly under the hood. Do you really think I'm an idiot? Breaking into an important national base is enough to sentence me to life imprisonment. As for escaping, Jack didn't even think about it. There were cameras everywhere in this world. It took luck to get in. He would be caught sooner or later. Now he has only one way to go. Turning around and looking at the operating nuclear fuel pile, the blue light reflected in his pupils through the heavy water. Jack fell into deep thought. The reactor was working now. If he jumped in now, would he be killed by nuclear radiation? You know, he was a castrated version of Godzilla now, and it had not been tested whether he could resist radiation. Hey, you can't be, kid, I advise you to calm down. The man seemed to understand something and tried his best to dissuade her. Gamble. Ark gritted his teeth and squeezed the Godzilla in his body with maximum power. Puff. The black scales with spikes pierced through the flesh, covering the entire right arm in layers, and the sharp claws were like those of some kind of lizard. This is the best he can do. Amid the man's horrified expression, Jack jumped into the heavy water, endured the nuclear radiation, tore open the hard steel, and touched the fuel rods inside. Ding! The monster tourism system has been successfully launched. Godzilla's energy has been absorbed. The system adheres to the Sustainable Development Strategy, never misses any energy, and solves the owner's worries. Since your consciousness is still in a coma, the automatic travel mode is turned on. Chapter 2. Name, Yake. Race, Godzilla/Human. Travel points, 30. Note 1, the lottery module has been enabled, and you can spend 100 points to draw once. Note 2, all items won will be used as travel souvenirs, and after-sales service is not within the scope of business. Well, a very crude template. The only thing worth mentioning is that Godzilla, which was originally in the second position, is now ranked in front, which also symbolizes that Ark has completely become a monster and his human attributes have become subordinate. What the hell, come out and tell me what's going on here, damn system. At this time, Yak, who was hanging on the tree, almost gritted his teeth and said, whose infinite flow landed on the tree branch. This system only provides crossing services, after-sales service is not within the scope of business. Then at least tell me what kind of world it is now. After-sales service is not within the scope of business. You are really a little genius. Jack was speechless. He propped himself up with his arms and did a 365-degree Thomas spin before jumping down from the tree. Touch. Landed smoothly, very well. Ah! Greenhead fish. Just as he was feeling proud of himself, a sharp explosion was heard nearby, and a girl pointed at Jack's head and screamed in fear. The tour guide stepped forward to comfort him. Hey! Calm down, that's a person. After hearing this, Mingri calmed down a little. After all, the sudden appearance of such a big greenhead fish is really scary. Hey, why did you climb up that tree? Do you know that your sudden appearance will scare people to death? Mingri's face turned red and he tried to cover up his gaffe with a loud voice. Yak didn't reply, but was secretly surprised at how he could understand Japanese. System benefits. This damn system actually brought him to Japan. Is it going to stage a Godzilla surprise attack on Tokyo? Hiss. It seems to be interesting. Hey! Why don't you answer me? Mingri was a little annoyed. Not only was this man scary, he also ignored her. Yake looked up and asked, "Excuse me, where is this and what are you doing here? Aren't you here to look for the pyramid?" Mingrizai said in surprise, "Some days ago, someone observed a pyramid suddenly appearing in this forest. We are here to look for treasures. This is our tour guide." After saying that, he pointed to the middle-aged tour guide on the side. These words really fried Yak's CPU. What the hell, the Egyptian pyramids have been built to Japan. Zzz. A sharp electric sound came from the radio on the guide's waist. According to TPC News, a huge unknown creature appeared in Mongolia. Please, Zzz. The next part was about to come out, but it was interrupted by some kind of magnetic field. Hey, my phone has no signal. Mine too. And mine. The short sentence on the radio instantly cheered up Jack. Pyramids, monsters, TPC. Dagya made soup tiga. Yak's eyes lit up. If he took a photo with Ultraman and the monster, the system points generated would go off the charts. The only flaw is that I watched the plot of Tiga quite a long time ago, and I only vaguely remember the more important parts. However, it's not a big problem. This, Miss Yazi. Yake came forward and asked with a smile, "You are here to look for the pyramids, you should have a map, can you tell me more about it?" "Yes, I have." The boy nodded, a look of confusion appearing on his fair face, and he took out a map from his bag. "That's it. The pyramid is roughly where the red circle is." "Oh." The smile on Yaka's face grew even wider. "In that case, robbery. Hand over the map." Because the green-headed fish's head mask is not taken off, the picture is extremely funny. "Hey, stop it, buddy. That's it." The two boys burst into laughter. Ugh. Yake sighed secretly. Why didn't he believe it? He immediately raised his right arm and stabbed the big tree next to him with a knife. Puff. Jack's hands were like steel. He broke through the rough bark and inserted half of his arm into the trunk. Ha 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 ha, ga. In an instant, the whole place was silent. "Now, I say it again, robbery." Yake slowly pulled out his arm and placed it in front of everyone. Unscathed. "Senior, spare your life. Senior, spare your life." The two boys who were still laughing just now knelt down in front of Yake in a standard way, and presented their wallets and mobile phones with a painful look on their faces. "These things are my apology, please spare my life, senior." I. Yake rolled his eyes and knelt down really quickly. He didn't take the wallet, but just violently snatched the map from the boy's hand, and kindly reminded him, "This thing belongs to me, you guys quickly take it back to where you got it." "Why?" Mingrizai was puffing up his face angrily and reached out to take back his map, but Yak held his head down and he could only wave his arms helplessly. Yake put the map in his pocket and said, "Let me tell you, in a few hours, 2 huge monsters will appear in this forest. If that time comes, you won't be able to escape even if you want to." Jack exerted force with his legs, jumped up the tree trunk, and moved forward according to the direction given on the map. The sound echoes among the trees. I have said this, you can believe it or not. Among the dense woods, a figure rose and fell, occasionally landing on the treetops and gazing into the distance. This should be the correct location. Yak unfolded the map and glanced at it. He must find the pyramid before Melba, Galzan, and the victory team, otherwise it would be very difficult to fish in troubled waters if a real fight breaks out. After a while, Jack seemed to see something. Looking closely, it looks like a golden spire. Found it. Yak flipped his palms back, and blue beams gushed out from his palms, approaching at an extremely fast speed with the help of thrust. Same style as Iron Man flying in the sky, Godzilla version. Enjoying the whistling airflow past his ears, Yak finally saw the complete pyramid. He retracted his palm and chose to drop it mid-air without any care. Boom! Yak smashed into the ground with huge kinetic energy, creating a big hole. Is this the pyramid? The tower body emits golden light, highlighting its class. Jack stretched out his hand and touched it lightly, but to his surprise, his palm went right through it. Is this the effect brought by humans? What if it were Godzilla? He did it right away. As soon as he thought about it, the pitch-black claws appeared. When the two touched, Jack felt a sharp pain as if his bones were being scraped. Hiss! Damn it! Yak retreated repeatedly, his claws turned black as if they were burned, and emitted a meaty aroma. This is so weird. No wonder Galzin used light to destroy the pyramid. The reason is actually here. He is so cunning. Yak turned back into a human and walked into the pyramid. What comes into view are 3 huge stone statues of Ultraman, and the one in the middle is Tiga. Too big. Yak sighed, it's really rewarding to take a photo with something like this. He stretched out his hand and a camera fell into his hand. Item, travel camera. Quality, highest, indestructible. Introduction, this divine camera is the best choice for travel photography. Come on, shout out my name travel camera. The dog system is really good. The corners of Jack's mouth twitched slightly, and he raised the camera and pointed it at himself and the 3 stone statues. Come on, eggplant. Click. Inclusion successful. Photo, stone statue cosplay. Main characters, Tiga, stone version, Dia, stone version, Siluka, stone version. Travel points, 150 points. Note 1, according to the author's inquiry, the other 2 stone statues of Achilles and Hera were fabricated by netizens. Chapter 3. At this time, at the TPC headquarters, the Victory team also deduced that the pyramid was somewhere in northeastern Japan, and immediately set off in 2 Victory swallows. Looking at the continuous forest below, team member Horii muttered, really, how could there be a pyramid in a place like this? Complaints are still complaints, and as a worker you still have to follow the instructions from your superiors. After getting off the plane, several people went to investigate separately. As a new member of the team, Daegu does not often take such solo actions. On the dim mountain path, Daegu felt as if someone was calling him from the dark, causing him to subconsciously walk in one direction. Daegu! Daegu! The ethereal sound was like a gentle breeze blowing through the mountains, penetrating every pore. As we got closer, the sound became clearer and clearer. When Daegu stepped onto an ancient suspension bridge, he finally saw pyramid. Not far away, Horii supported his injured waist and continued to investigate with Lena's company. If you ask me, where did the pyramid come from? How could a satellite not be able to capture a pyramid that can accommodate a giant? Before he had taken 2 steps, Horii was stunned, as if he had seen something. Look! Lena and Zinken, who were accompanying him, also shouted hurriedly, don't go, Daegu, come back quickly. But Daegu seemed to have lost his soul and ran towards the towering pyramid. Yak watched all this in the dark and raised his eyebrows slightly. It was obvious that this was a backup plan left by Yalian. Suddenly, Yak sensed 2 huge sources of information approaching him. Being Godzilla, he is very familiar with the unabashed monster force fields of his kind. Galzin and Melba are approaching. Not long after, just as Daegu and others came out of the pyramid, 2 huge monsters finally arrived. The super ancient monster Galzin appears. Looking at the huge body of Galzin and its unique armored head, his ferocious eyes revealed his hatred for the pyramids. A purple halo surged from Galzin's body, and a purple ultrasonic beam emitted from his protruding forehead, bombarding the pyramid. Under the attack, the golden barrier protecting the giant slowly disappeared, revealing 3 huge stone statues. At this moment, facing the pyramid that turned into golden fragments, Melba landed with the whistling wings, and the sweeping hurricane brought up dust all over the sky. A formidable force. On the tree branch, Jack couldn't help but sigh, this kind of power is terrifying, but fortunately I have it too. After the pyramids were completely destroyed, the 2 monsters turned their attention to the giant stone statues. Galzin swung his claws and slapped the giant stone statue, and with one whip of his tail he broke the statue's calf. Melba used his sharp beak to peck another statue beyond recognition. The 2 monsters beat the stone statue hard and roared angrily. Since Jack was also a monster, he also understood the meaning of the roars of the 2 monsters. Basically, come on, stand up if you have the guts. I told you to beat me before, try beating me again if you can. Kill you, kill you, kill you. What a huge hatred and resentment this must be. Yak sincerely sighed that the grievances and hatreds between the ultra-ancient monsters and the ultra-ancient giants could not be fully described even if they were talked about for 3 days and 3 nights. To put it simply, Galzin and Melba were all wiped out by the super-ancient giants, leaving only one beast alone. Tisk, how miserable! The 2 stone statues named Dia and Saluka had been beaten to pieces by the monster, but Galzin was still not satisfied and set his sights on the remaining one Tiga. Stop it! At this moment, the anxious Daegyu drove the Fiian alone towards the monster, but the smoke bombs loaded on the Fiian had no effect at all on the monster. Looking at the little bugs flying around, Galzin impatiently shot a beam of light bullet, which hit the engine of the Fiian directly. For a moment, Fiian lost power. Hurry up and jump, Daegyu, hurry up and jump. Daegyu. On the other Fiian plane, everyone's hearts were in their throats, but there was nothing they could do but watch Daegyu crash. On the tree branch, Jack narrowed his eyes and felt a huge wall descending. The big one is coming. Daegyu turned into a ball of light and rushed into the stone statue lying on the ground. Galzin seemed to have noticed something as well, and he quickly stepped forward, wanting to crush the statue with his feet to prevent future trouble. But as soon as the big foot stepped down, the stone statue actually moved. With his feet propped up by the arms of the statue, Galzin tilted his head in confusion. What was going on? Why was the statue moving? Suddenly, the statue pushed hard, and Galzin took a few steps back. Tiga is resurrected. On the Fiian, Lena said in surprise, the giant has revived. Instead, it was Yak who was observing in the dark who couldn't hold it anymore. He could feel that it was Daegyu, but not the real Daegyu. Tiga's true consciousness is inside. No, that's not right. Yak suppressed the throbbing in his heart. It was impossible for Tiga's real consciousness to come from such a long distance, so there was only one explanation. That is, when Tiga left, there was still a trace of will left in his body. Jack was so confused that he gradually calmed down. It's so damn scary. If the real Tiga really came, he would definitely run away overnight without looking back. Fortunately, it's just a tutorial for beginners. Turning to the monster, Galzin and Melba were dumbfounded. They retreated habitually, feeling very panicked. How could I be such a big stone statue? Galzin was already terrified. Melba, who was the first to react, spread his wings and flew into the sky, observing the situation and deciding whether to retreat strategically. The awakened Ultraman Tiga didn't care about all this. He rushed forward and smashed Galzin's big head with his Ultraman hand knife. He turned around and swung his arm to hit Galzin's abdomen. In an instant, Galzin was beaten back repeatedly. Melba in the sky could no longer sit still, so he leaned forward and accelerated towards Tiga. Before he had a chance to show off, he was kicked and knocked down. Looking at the 3 behemoths fighting each other, Yak muttered to himself, "It's my turn to perform." Arc burst out with a majestic blue light, and his entire body began to grow huge, eventually transforming into a real Godzilla. Name, Yak. Race, Monster, Godzilla. Height, 87 meters. Weight, 8 tons. Skills, Atomic Breath, Free Fight, Tail Flick, Back Slice, Red Lotus Form, 0%. Note, the Red Lotus Form requires energy collection, but it can be activated at any time. The higher the energy collection, the stronger the Red Lotus Form after activation. Please decide for yourself. The yak weighing about 80,000 tons smashed to the ground, and the surrounding mountains were instantly shattered into pieces, and the trees were uprooted by the sweeping hurricane. When the smoke and dust cleared, Jack's appearance was officially revealed. It is covered with pitch-black scales, its dorsal fin is covered with layers of spines, the blue nuclear energy light flickers on its dorsal fin, and its blue pupils are filled with human-like excitement. Roar, roar, roar! Yak could no longer suppress his excitement and roared to the sky to announce his arrival. Monsters, your king is here. Chapter 4. What is that? On the victory swallow, Lena stared blankly at the monster that suddenly appeared. A new monster. Didn't the super ancient image say that there were only Galzin and Melba? This. How do we fight this? The super ancient time machine in TPC headquarters, Yulian who was staying inside was stunned. This is not right, that's not how the script is written. In order to continue civilization, Yulian fell into a dormant state with the last bit of consciousness left. Only now has he been able to wake up and serve as a novice guide to Daegyu, ensuring that today's human civilization will not be destroyed by monsters. The appearance of this monster with blue pupils completely broke the established script. The situation was completely different from what she expected. Should humans really not exist? Yulian looked lonely. She couldn't help now, and that wisp of Tiga's original consciousness would completely dissipate within a few minutes. As a novice, there is no way that Dagu can defeat 3 ferocious monsters. Humanity is in trouble. Now the victory swallow can only hover aside, quietly waiting for instructions from its superiors. Captain of the intermediary, what should we do now? This. Irumahue was stunned. It was impossible to shoot now. Furthermore, their Fiian is now loaded with smoke bombs, which would be a joke if they hit the monster's scales. After racking his brains, he finally managed to come up with a sentence: observe the situation and trust the judgment of the giant. Yes. In the forest at this moment, the scene fell silent for a while, and the monsters surrounded Tiga in a triangle. Neither Galzin nor Tiga dared to act rashly. There was not a single bird flying in the empty sky, and the whole forest seemed peaceful. If those 4 giant objects were removed. Roar, roar, roar. Suddenly, a deafening sound echoed in the forest. That was Galzin growling. No, it should be speaking. Who are you? Yak looked him up and down and said, well, Galzin is not as tall as him, so I have the advantage. What he fears most now is that his sudden appearance will cause stress to both the monsters and Ultraman. Once this happens, it will immediately become a 3-on-1 situation, and the one being beaten is Yak. The question received no response, which made Galzin a little annoyed, and he roared, you are so rude, what are you worried about, do you want to fight? He. In the face of Galzin's anger, Yak smiled lightly. Galzin's attitude was very clear. He wanted to kill Tiga with them, but unfortunately, Yak would never do that. Now that Tiga is gone, are you going to hunt that giant snail under the South Pacific? This is not a joke. After turning into a monster, even a soft laugh becomes extremely loud. What do you mean? Galzin asked angrily. Unfortunately, Ake ignored him, but turned to look at Tiga and said with his mind, revived Ultraman, you are now faced with 2 choices. 1. Join forces with me and take 1 each. 2nd, I will work with these 2 monsters to beat you to pieces. Choose, Tiga's human form. After the arrival of Yak, Tiga's main consciousness was consumed for a period of time, and Dagu finally began to slowly go online for practical operations. Although he was given a choice, Yak did not give Dagu time to consider and walked towards Ultraman Tiga. Dong, dong, dong. The heavy footsteps were like the beating of war drums, striking at everyone's heart. Tiga took a stance and looked nervously at the approaching Godzilla, his mind a mess. He couldn't understand why the monster in front of him could tell that he was a human being and even offered to cooperate with him. The 2 were only 1 step away from each other. Tiga tensed his muscles and stared at the movements of the monster in front of him. Yak raised his paw and gently patted Ultraman Tiga on the shoulder, young human body, you can't be confused for so long when facing monsters. Galzin is mine, and Melba is yours. Yes. As a new Ultraman, Daigo completely lost the initiative and was led by Arc. Seeing that Daegu agreed, Yak also turned his attention to Galzin, come, let's practice, let me see the level of the super ancient monster. You traitor! Only then did Galzin realize that the ferocious-looking monster in front of him had reached a cooperation agreement with Ultraman. My heart was filled with anger after being fooled. Purple energy gushed out from the armor-like neck, gathering at the forehead and releasing a ray of ultrasonic light. Yak was no less impressive. Dark blue nuclear energy gathered from his dorsal spines, and he opened his mouth to exhale an atomic breath. Since ancient times, you have lost to the left side of the wave. This time was no exception, the atomic rays easily broke through Galzin's light shooting. The scorching temperature scorched the surrounding trees, and the air was filled with the smell of burning flames. Boom! The extremely radioactive breath killed all living things along its path and hit Galzin directly. In just 1 second, Galzin was knocked to the ground by this huge energy. Pain, it hurts so much. The burning pain was like maggots attached to the bones, slowly corroding the entire body, and the residual radiation was like a sword scratching back and forth on the exposed flesh. Roar! Galzin fell to the ground groaning in pain. Even Yak was surprised by this situation. He could guarantee that he really did not use his full strength. He was afraid of being killed by Galzin, so he only used 60% of the power of his atomic breath. Could it be that this guy is pretending? After being stunned for a breath, Jack stopped thinking about it. This was a battle between monsters, not a game of house. He had to beat Galzan half to death first. He immediately stepped forward and whipped Galzan on the back. Dong! Godzilla's tail is like an iron whip and is a very important means of attack. The force it unleashes is enough to overturn a warship. The battle between Galzan and Yak was one-sided. Galzan was pinned to the ground and had no power to fight back at all. Too cruel. On the Haiyan, Horii was so frightened by the fighting below that he broke out in a cold sweat. Is this a fight between monsters? They are simply two mad beasts. Quick, use the equipment on the Fiian to record it. This will become valuable data for our victory team to study monsters. Akuma Hue gave orders through the communication device in the helmet. Yes. After beating him for half a minute, Yak began to feel tired and Galzan collapsed to the ground, motionless. Yak could clearly feel that Galzan was not dead, but had completely given up, ready to be picked. Come on, if you have the guts, kill me. I won't even start with you. Sure enough, to deal with a dishonest monster, just give it a beating. If that's not enough, then give it 2 beatings. Yak opened his claws and took out the camera from the system space. Item, travel camera. Quality, highest, indestructible. Introduction, this divine camera is the best choice for travel photography. Come on, shout out my name travel camera. One paw was pinching Galzan's forehead, and the other paw was holding a camera that was so small that it was only the size of a human palm. Look at the camera, come on, eggplant. Click. As soon as the shutter was pressed, the ferocious-looking Godzilla and the bruised and swollen Galzan were recorded. Inclusion successful. Photo, brother and his family. Main character, Galzan. Travel points, 300. Chapter 5. 300 points. It's a huge sum of money. Back then, Yak was given a mere 20 points for sneaking into the pyramid and taking a photo with the pharaoh's mummy, and he was only given 5 points for burning down the Yasukuni Shrine's toilet. Now a monster in the novice tutorial directly gives 300 points. It turns out that monsters are the primary productive force for points. Having tasted the sweetness, Yak immediately turned his gaze to Melba. To be honest, without Tiga's guidance, the novice driver Daigo would be a bit of a rookie. But it's still forgivable, after all, I'm a newbie. Now Tiga has transformed into a blue-purple aerial form, and is fighting fiercely with Melba. The two intertwined figures leave only a trail of afterimages. Hiss, this is a bit difficult. Yak scratched his neck. It was very embarrassing because he couldn't fly and couldn't reach it even if he jumped. In that case, Godzilla's dorsal fin began to tremble, and the nuclear energy it emitted rose and fell like the tide on the coast, mixed with blue flames lingering around it. Look, what that monster is doing. Team member Horii pointed at the monster that was standing still and exclaimed, why is its dorsal fin glowing? Wait a moment, I'll detect it. Team member Yerui, a technician in the base, tapped his fingers and transmitted the detected data to the Fiian. That monster is gathering energy, hurry, run. What? Captain Jujian looked at the monster on the screen and shouted, retreat, stay away from the monster. Yak felt the energy accumulated in his back and nodded with satisfaction. It should be enough. Ho ho ho. Godzilla let out a series of low growls. Back cutting, start. Zzz. The no longer restrained nuclear energy was released from the fin tips, shooting out in all directions, and dozens of blue cutting beams streaked across the sky. Quick, hide. Lena, who was driving the Fiian, gripped the joystick and shifted it to the left. When the cutting beam passed by, the burning heat made people sweat all over. Fortunately, with the help of luck, Victory Swallow 2 finally managed to avoid the danger. However, because the beam also contained radiation, everyone felt chest tightness and shortness of breath. It's too dangerous. Team Lena, immediately move away from the monster and watch from a distance. What about Daegu? Facing Lena's question, Captain Jujian was silent for a while. Obey the order, Lena. As for Daegu, I'm sorry, for the safety of other team members, we can only wait until the monster calms down before looking for it. Yes. Compared to the luck of Fiian 2, Melba, which was the main target, was not so lucky. No matter how fast you are, there is no way to completely avoid the large number of cutting beams. 2 beams of light streaked across Melba's wings, cutting through them like a hot knife through butter, and the 4-ton monster fell from the sky. Boom! The mountain was flattened by the huge weight, broken stones and wood flew everywhere, and the dust raised made Yak's nose itchy. Sizzle! Melba let out a wail, and the broken surfaces of her wings made a crackling sound. As a monster, its strong physique and the anger after being injured made it stand up and roar at Yak in anger, Zia. Traitor! You beast girl, a lackey of the giant clan! Kill me if you dare! Yak made no secret of his sarcasm and said, it seems that the super ancient monster is just like this. Apart from its sharp mouth, it is useless. No wonder the giants killed them and only 2 of them were left. Boom! Just as he finished speaking, another huge object fell to the ground. Oh no, Tiga! Tiga was also shot down by the beam, and the timer on his chest lit up red. It seems that I am still not proficient in the use of my skills. Yake said apologetically, I'm sorry, I'll treat you to a meal next time. I'll clean up this monster first. After saying that, Yak took the lead and hit Melba. Melba lost most of his combat power. With Yak's weight of nearly 80,000 tons and the speed of the charge, he flew backwards. Making room, Yak swung his tail again, hitting Melba hard in the abdomen. Boom! The defenseless Melba was knocked to the ground and lost the ability to resist for a moment. Well, it's time to take a souvenir. Yak took out his camera and took Melba in his arms. Come on, smile. Crack. Inclusion successful. Photo, monster bullying. Main character, Melba. Travel points, 250 points. Compared with Gazot, the points provided by Melba are obviously 1 level less. It seems that the points provided are also closely related to the strength of the monster. Now, there is another question. How to deal with Melba? It's impossible to keep it around. The system space only provides storage function and can't be used as a pet. They couldn't become partners, and they had their wings torn off by themselves, which made them very resentful. A hint of ruthlessness flashed in Yak's eyes. I'm sorry, Melba, I'll send you to reunite with your family right now. Open your fang-filled mouth and gather nuclear energy. Atomic breath, 100% power. The dark blue breath carried a deadly light, and because the distance was too close, the accompanying flames burned Godzilla's skin but did not leave a trace. A huge amount of energy hit Melba's chest. In an instant, the muscles dissolved and the bones turned to ashes. The huge body exploded under the impact of nuclear energy, and the scattered monster tissues carried an unpleasant burnt smell. Gazot, who was pretending to be dead, was already petrified with fear. You will die. You will definitely die if that monster finds out. Not caring about his wounds that had not yet healed, Gazot broke through the ground and dug frantically with both hands. With the will to survive, he burrowed into the ground and disappeared in just a few seconds. Gazot ran away. Does Yak know? I know, but Jack doesn't care. As time goes by, Gazot will escape to a volcano to recuperate and successfully evolve into the 2nd generation Gazot. Then I'll pull him out and give him a beating, and the points for the photo will definitely be more than 300. This is what is called unswervingly pursuing the path of sustainable development. The 2 monsters finally disappeared, and Ultraman Tiga also breathed a sigh of relief. The red light on his chest flashed more rapidly, and slowly Tiga finally turned into golden fragments and disappeared. There was nothing Jack could do to stop this situation. Tisk, so disappointing. I also wanted to take a photo with Tiga. I've been looking forward to it for a long time. Never mind. There are plenty of opportunities. Get off work. Look, the monster has disappeared. On the Fiian, Lena pointed at a small black dot on the ground and shouted in surprise, Daegu. That's Daegu. What, Daegu is still alive? Go down and get him. Everyone finally felt relieved when Daegu did not die in the line of duty, and they all smiled. Although the 3-headed monster and Tiga have disappeared, things are far from over. This is TPC headquarters. I'm Megami Iruma. Everyone, return to base immediately for a full body checkup. Yes. Chapter 6. TPC headquarters. Captain Jujian, all the data is here. Mayumi Shinjo delivered a full body report from the medical bureau, and waved goodbye to Tetsuo Shinjo as she left. Goodbye, brother. I'm going back to work. Okay, be careful on the road. Zinken replied with a smile. Iruma looked at the report in his hand with a frown on his face. How is that possible? Why is there no trace at all? The strange expression made the returning team members somewhat confused. Dagu asked, Captain, is there any problem? He is very nervous now, afraid that he might detect something and expose that he has transformed into Ultraman Tiga. Holding the test report, Irimahue handed it to team member Nori. Could it be that there was a problem with the test? Why is there no trace at all? Yarui Hajime looked incredulous. The data cannot be wrong. From the portable detectors and on-site monitoring, it is clear that the nuclear radiation has exceeded the peak that the human body can withstand. Why has it all disappeared now? This is unscientific. Regarding his own job, Yarui was adamant that the initial data could not be wrong. Dagu next to him looked confused. What radiation, peak value, what are you talking about? Yarui looked at the people who had returned and said, for your safety, when the Victory Swallow took off, the technical team installed a simple detector on the Swallow, and nuclear radiation detection was one of its functions. After that, Yarui took a deep breath and showed the test report in his hand. The main energy source of the beam of light emitted by the monster with a blue dorsal fin is nuclear energy. This means that the path of the monster's breath has been contaminated by radioactive substances, and because you just passed by the breath, although you didn't come into contact with it, the radiation energy you were exposed to is definitely not something a normal human can withstand. But, you are still alive. After he finished speaking these long words, there was a dead silence at the scene. Instead, Daegu secretly breathed a sigh of relief, as it turned out that he had not noticed his identity. After what happened just now, I have a bold guess. Team member Yarui paused, with a little bit of unconfidence in his tone. You and all the radioactive materials at the scene have disappeared completely. No, to be more precise, the monster took the initiative to eliminate the potential harm it caused. The answer, which sounded like a riddle, made Irimake's eyes widen instantly. That monster has a brain that is not inferior to that of humans. It is an intelligent creature that can think independently. Okay. Yarui nodded, his face looking extremely ugly. This is impossible. How can a monster have intelligence? Yet, monsters only desire destruction, right? The rest of the people obviously didn't believe it and expressed their own opinions. Daegu didn't say anything. He was speechless and it was impossible for him to jump out and pat his chest to make a guarantee. I am the giant just now. I have made an agreement with the nuclear monster to beat up the other two monsters together. If this happened, the captain of the mediation team would definitely tie himself up and send him to a psychiatric department to have his brain checked. Just as everyone was stunned, the screen in the hall lit up, and an amiable old man in a blue TPC uniform sat on a chair. Director Sawai. Director Sawai. Everyone in the operations department immediately greeted Sawai Soijiro. Thank you for your hard work, everyone in the operations department. We all know about the nuclear monster. Sawai Soijiro said with a smile. We all have reservations about whether the monster has intelligence, but there is no doubt that the danger and uncertainty it shows are indeed a headache. Next time it appears, I still hope to be able to observe the movements of the nuclear monster first, and then decide whether to attack. The meeting decided to name it the nuclear monster Godzilla. Yes. Everyone said. Sawai Soijiro continued, because of the number of monsters that appeared, the TPC headquarters decided to upgrade the technical team to the equipment technology department, and specially added a subordinate department, the logistics support team, as a support for the operations department to perform tasks, and expanded the recruitment of social members from the outside, the intermediary captain. Director Sawai. Irimake stepped forward. I would like to ask everyone in the operations department to take care of this matter. You can find truly capable talents for the equipment technology department according to your needs. Yes. Irimake agreed immediately. The technical department originally had no connection with the operations department, but the support squad was actually the backup of the operations department. Having the people from the operations department select the members personally would also help the teams to get along better. Thank you for your hard work. Director Sawai nodded and disappeared from the screen in the hall. The other side. Yak was lying on a bench in the park, mumbling to himself about the system. What a bastard, it just dumped me here and left me alone. Bastard system, bastard system. It's very realistic. Since he's new here, Yak has no money on him, so it looks like he'll have to spend the night in the park. Rob a bank? Come on, I'm Godzilla, a monster. I am a monster who even dares to beat Ultraman Tiga. You ask me to rob a bank. I, Yak, have no face left. While I was daydreaming, a clear female voice said, Hello, what are you doing lying here? Yak opened his eyes and saw the girl in front of him, a hint of surprise flashed in his eyes. Mingri, the girl whose map he robbed. Apparently, the arrested Yak suppressed the guilt in his heart and said with dead eyes, a penniless man lying in the park, is there any other answer except that he is the wandering earth? First, let me introduce myself. My name is Mingri Yazi. My last name is Mingri, not Yazi. At first, she felt uncomfortable with being addressed as Yak. The girl smiled and said, I have finished my introduction. Now it is your turn to introduce yourself, Mr. Greenhead Fish. No, what green-headed fish, what are you talking about? Shit, how did she find out? A bunch of horses were galloping in Yak's heart, I'm Korean, I don't understand smekta. It's you, the greenhead fish who stole my map. Mingri puffed up his cheeks and said angrily, you haven't even changed your clothes, and what the hell are you? After saying that, he picked up a green thing from the ground. Jack confirmed again and again, yes, it was his green-headed fish. Damn it, he put the hood in his pocket, and the hood kicked him into the ditch. Alas! What do you want to do? Anyway, I don't have any money and I won't give you my life. Yak is totally screwed. Seeing the man admitted it, the boy pretended to be mysterious and said, you don't have a place to live, I can help you. You? Jack looked her up and down. She was a pretty high school girl with a high ponytail, a sailor suit, and black stockings. The little brat who didn't even have his hair fully grown, Yak rolled his eyes and said, go back quickly if you have nothing to do. If you can't find anyone at home later, I'll have to take you home. I'm not in the mood to take care of a kid in kindergarten. How can we repair it? Baga. Mingri's eye blushed, I mean my house is open for people to stay, you rude guy. These words instantly aroused Yak's interest. In the blink of an eye, a coat was gently covered on the girl's upper body, and Yak said gentlemanly, dear Miss Mingri, which direction should we go? You are so shameless. This is what I should do. Chapter 7. The orange-red sun was half leaning on the hill, and the sunset glow was draped over the two of them. Are you sure it's okay? Yak confirmed again, you are a high school girl, inviting a homeless handsome guy to live in your house. It sounds suspicious no matter how you listen to it. Just ask yourself, who would let someone live in his or her home without knowing the other person? Could it be a honey trap? Mingri said unhappily, of course it's not that simple. You'll be back when you get there. After a while, the two finally arrived in front of a store. The name of the shop is also very concise, Tomorrow's Bakery. Snap! There was a sound of smashing and looting coming from the store, accompanied by a man's rough scolding. Mom! Mingri rushed in with an exclamation. In this situation, Yak sighed, there is really no free lunch in the world. In the store. Under the soft light, the glass of the bread display cabinet was shattered all over the floor, and a young woman in a kimono was bending over and apologizing repeatedly. Please give me a few days, I will definitely. Baka. Do you think we Inagawa are fools? It's been several days now. The thugs holding sticks angrily smashed the counter, which was already in disarray, stirring up a lot of debris. Mom! Mingzi rushed forward, stood in front of several men, and shouted angrily, Kikuta, didn't you just collect protection money this month? Is this the credibility of the Inagawa society? As an underground gang, income such as protection fees is already common, but these people collected 100,000 yen at a time, and this is the third time this month. Ha 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 ha. Ha ha ha, no, you actually kept your word with the underworld. Several men in black shirts burst into laughter. The leader, Kikuta, said bluntly, don't worry about it. Just hand over the money. Of course, we can still discuss it, for example. Kikuta looked Mingri up and down and couldn't help swallowing. Lord Kikuta, my daughter is still young and ignorant. Asuna, who was standing behind him, quickly stepped forward to smooth things over, holding her daughter in her arms and saying, we must raise the money as soon as possible. Cough cough. Yak at the door interrupted the discussion and said, wait a minute, everyone. Actually, we can. I'll wait for you. One of the thugs immediately jumped up, raised his stick and started hitting, eager to show off in front of the boss. Sack. Yak rolled his eyes and kicked the thug in the chest. Click. The crisp sound of broken bones echoed. The thug turned into a shadow in an instant, fell on the counter and fainted. He would have to lie in bed for at least half a year. Tisk, you bastard, didn't your mom teach you not to butt in? Yak spat at the thug. After all, it would be too uncivilized to really spit. Now you can listen to me. Hey, sir. The younger brother was beaten, and Kikuta felt a little embarrassed. He stood up and wanted to scold him, but the younger brother's appearance also made him feel a little scared, so even his tone became much softer. Being interrupted again, Yak was a little angry. Listen to me, don't you understand? Thump. In the void, the sound of heartbeats appeared in everyone's ears. You will die, you will definitely die. Kikuta froze, every cell in his body reminding him that the man in front of him was angry. That was the scent of being targeted by a predator. Seeing that no one was talking, Yake nodded with satisfaction. Although your shitty Japanese gangsters make me feel sick, I am still willing to talk to you. Now I will give you two choices. One, he chose to continue to receive the protection fee, but the consequence was that I broke his hands and he had to kneel down to receive it. 2, hand over the money, compensate for the losses you have caused, and then go back to where you came from. Choose. Yake waited with a smile. Sir, we, the Inagawa Society, have no grudge against you, right? No. I, Kikuta Ichiro, don't have any personal grudge against you, do I? No. Kikuta's face turned cold. From what you said, you came here on purpose to cause trouble. Although it's because I was fooled, it's understandable. Jack shrugged indifferently. Damn. Kikuta was completely confused. He was anxious and angry. But he didn't dare to do anything. He saw an afterimage of Jack's whip kick just now, which showed how fast it was. The younger brother lying next to him was the best proof of that. With the mediocre kung fu he and his younger brother have, even if they were tied together, they would not be enough to defeat someone with one hand. But he couldn't leave, his subordinates were all watching him. How would he survive if he became weak? As the situation became deadlocked, Yake became impatient and said, have you thought about it? You bastards are just annoying. You are so cowardly and you keep complaining without letting go of your pride. After a moment of silence, Kikuta finally moved. He took out his wallet, along with his little brother's, and placed it on the counter. Before leaving, in order to save a little dignity, he gritted his teeth and said, the Inagawa Society will not forget this heavy day, you wait for me. After saying that, he slipped away with his little brother. Looking at the backs of several people, Yak narrowed his eyes. Hello, hello. A weak voice called out to Yak, tears welled up on Asuna's fair face, and her long hair, which was tied in front of her chest, playfully slipped into the ravine. With Yak's height, he could just see the whole thing. Hiss. Can't look, can't look. Please accept this money. The young woman blinked her bright eyes and handed over the wallet with her bare hands. Ma'am, please take it. It will be my lodging fee. Yak raised his head and signaled that Mingri could start his narration. The mother and daughter hugged each other and talked in low voices. Hiss. Mother and daughter Donbarai. Can't think, can't think. Hurry up and get rid of the yellow waste in your brain. The two of them were some distance away from Yak, but that didn't affect their ability to hear what was being said. Then, after some deception and magic changes by Mingri, her mother finally believed that Yak was a kind-hearted, martial arts-skilled human being who lived on the streets. Please take care of me in the future. Asuna bowed in gratitude and left to prepare the room. Ya polite and kind K also quickly replied, it should be. Forward. Who is the landlord? Thank you very much. Mingri came forward with a red face to express his gratitude. Ugh. Ya K sighed speechlessly, I thought it was a honey trap, but now I find it's a honey trap pro. I'll make it up to you. Mingri bowed his head and clasped his hands together to express his apology for dragging Yak into trouble. In fact, he had the idea since he saw Jack punching a tree with his bare hands, and he started to implement it when they met again, which shows how strong his ability to take action is. I originally wanted to stay and discuss, but who would have thought you would come so soon? I will make it up to you no matter what. Whatever. Mingri hesitated, gritted his teeth and nodded, yes. Oh ho 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 ho. Yak's mouth curled up, in that case, I will punish you, you will have to make breakfast yourself tomorrow. Hey? That's it. The boy, who was ready to die, had a frozen face. Is this the end? I am not the kind of bad person who takes advantage of others' misfortunes. Yake glanced at the boy whose face was already red. I still have some things to deal with. I will be back soon. Before the boy could react, the man had disappeared in the bakery. Chapter 8. The next day. The morning sun shines through the window onto someone's face. Another beautiful day. Yak stretched, walked out of the room and found that Mingri had already prepared breakfast. The three of them knelt in front of the dining table and put their hands together. I'm starting. Well, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. At this moment, the TV was turned on and was broadcasting today's morning news. This morning, according to the cleaners, several charred bodies were found on the street. After investigation, several of them were members of the Inagawa Society. According to forensic tests, it was basically confirmed that several people were murdered. Now the serious crime team has intervened in the investigation. At the dining table, Jack was munching on the bread made by his son and watching the news with great interest. When he turned around, he saw Mingri and her mother staring at him with incredible eyes. Why are you looking at me? Eat breakfast. Mingri picked up the bread stiffly. She had already guessed something in her heart. Finally, he couldn't help but asked, Yake, did you do this? What do you mean I did it? Jack denied it directly, saying how could a weak, helpless, and kind human being like me do such a thing? Slander, naked slander. The boy didn't believe this explanation, but Asuka Yuina believed it anyway. After all, Yak had been out for less than 10 minutes. The actual situation is that it was indeed done by Yak, but why? Come on, that bastard is just saying harsh words. He asked me to wait, obviously intending to settle the score later. According to the plot in the novel, the protagonist left after being insulted, saying some harsh words, and then luckily met the old man, and came back to kill the entire family of the villain. Yak is already a monster and is set to be a villain at first glance. How can we let him go? In order to eliminate the trouble once and for all, Yak forced them to reveal the locations of all the members he knew, and then killed them one by one. Leave no one behind. No nonsense, 10 minutes, just right. After dinner, Yak took out the incense burner he had prepared in advance, placed it on the window, and respectfully lit 3 incense sticks. Mingri asked curiously, how can someone like you believe in religion? Yak thought for a while and said, we chat. Mingri fell silent and went downstairs to help his mother clean up the house in preparation for opening. Yak sat cross-legged, clasped his hands together and silently chanted, 3 pure ones, Buddha, God Jesus, God King Odin, Ultraman Noah. No matter who it is, please bless me to ship the goods. Without any hesitation, he did 5 consecutive draws. Arc Driver 1. Good. Ship immediately. Monster Capsule 1. Good. Double Connection, become famous in 1 battle. Monster Feed 10, note, you can use it yourself. 6. Red King Fragment 1. Identity, TPC Special Team Member. These 5 bursts are generally good. According to the system, as long as you collect 10 identical monster fragments, you can fuse them into 1 monster. What the hell is this identity? The dog system does not include after-sales service. It turns out that it was waiting for me here. It wants to cheat me of my points, right? Fortunately, I have great luck. Well, it's a new day. In a good mood, Jack walked downstairs humming a little tune. There were many customers in the store at this time, probably at least more than 20 people. It seems that the mother and daughter are doing a good job, otherwise they would not be able to afford so much protection fee. It is worth mentioning that Mingri's father died when he was born. Very moist. Living in someone else's house and eating someone else's food, Yak felt embarrassed not to help, so he stepped forward and started to help. During the 3 days, I also heard a lot of interesting news. For example, someone's husband cheated on him, someone bought a new car, and someone nearby was burned to charcoal. What is most interesting to Yak is that TPC has actually started to recruit experts from the public, regardless of their education or age, as long as they have the ability. After a busy morning, it's finally over. Yak sipped the tea brewed by Asuna. Yazii-chan, I plan to try the waters at TPC. This news made Mingri's heart tighten. It's only been a few days, are you leaving? After living together for these days, Mingri found that although Yak looked a bit unfocused, he was still very enthusiastic. Yak shook his head and said, it's just a job. I can't rely on you to support me. Just think of it as earning money to pay the rent. Seeing that Yake had no intention of leaving, the boy breathed a sigh of relief and whispered, "It's not impossible." "What did you say?" "Nothing, nothing." The boy blushed and turned away quickly. "I'm going to do my homework. I have to go to school tomorrow." Asuka Yukina, who was standing next to her, knew everything about her daughter, but she didn't care. Instead, she took out some banknotes from the drawer and handed them to Ake. It looked like there were about 50,000 or 60,000 yen. "Thank you for your help these days. This money will be your salary. Please don't refuse it. After all, you also need money for other purposes." Yake was about to refuse, but after thinking it over he accepted it. "Thank you very much." After preparing for a while, I took a taxi to the recruitment building where TPC is located. It is better to be honest in a densely populated town. If he is seen by others, he will definitely be targeted by the TPC, and he does not want to abandon his human identity. After more than 10 minutes, Yak finally arrived at his destination. The recruitment hall was crowded with all kinds of people. Hey, does this guy need a guide?" A well-dressed man came up and said mysteriously, "Brother, I have a top-secret document here, do you want it?" Top-secret information. Yake suddenly became interested. How top-secret is it? Can it be broadcast on TV? Ahem, it's not what you think. The man quietly took out a document bag from his arms, on which was clearly written TPC must pass top-secret file. Not interested in. Yak's hot heart suddenly turned cold. He thought it was God's blessing, but it turned out to be a crappy scam. Seeing that the customer was not interested, the man became anxious. "Brother, believe me." At this time, a muscular man led a few policemen over and pointed at the man and said, "He was the one who deceived me. He said he had some top-secret information and asked me for 200,000 yen. The man who was caught in the act started to run, but after taking only 2 steps he was pinned to the ground by a strong man and beaten up. 3 or 4 policemen couldn't stop him. Yake gasped and stepped aside. "Hey my friend, you dare to sell this thing for 200,000? I respect you as a real man." After the boxing, the two were taken away in police cars one after another. "They are all talents." Yake sighed and said to Lena, who was acting as the front desk, "I am Yake, a TPC special agent. Here is my ID." Special agent? Lena was a little confused. Director Sawai had never mentioned the existence of this person before she came. Half believing and half doubting, I checked the database, and to my surprise, it really exists. Name, Yake. Sex, male. Age, 21 years old. Identity, TPC Special Team Member. Resume. Yak carefully observed Lena's facial expression, from confusion to surprise, and then to belief. It seems that the dog system didn't cheat me. After confirming, Lena said with a smile, "Mr. Yak, please wait a moment, I will." Drop. The phone is ringing. Lena smiled apologetically and picked up the phone. "Hey, Lena. We've received a message that something unusual has occurred on Carrera Island. Gather immediately." "Yes." After hanging up the phone, Lena looked at Yake in embarrassment. "I'm really sorry, we have some problems." "Gakuma?" Yake smiled and said, "Excuse me, as a member of the special mission, can I join you?" "What?" "It's okay. This is a necessary process for better coordination in the future. I don't think the captain will mind." "Well, okay." Lena nodded. Chapter 9. There's actually a place like this under the building. Looking at the huge underground space, Yake couldn't help but marvel at TPC's wealth. Lena, who was leading the way, said, "We built this underground facility to avoid some unexpected events, but we are not here most of the time." "Hey, Captain!" A group of people in combat uniforms appeared not far away. They were Irumake, Deiko, and others. "Team Lena, who is this?" The captain of the middle team pointed at Yak and asked with a puzzled look on his face. "Captain, don't you know?" Lena was puzzled and said, "This is Yak, a special member of the TPC headquarters. I checked the database and there is indeed such a transfer order." She originally thought that Director Sawai had already talked to the captain of the agency privately before agreeing to let Yak come along. "Let me confirm it." Hui Zhejian felt inexplicably strange in her heart. She always felt that the man in front of her was a little strange, but she couldn't tell what was wrong. She looked around, and the team members around her understood and surrounded her quietly. Even Dagu put his hand on the hyper rifle at his waist. Tisk, you are indeed the successor of Uran. Jack knew what was going on, but he didn't take any action. He could boldly say that even if he stood still today, these people tied together would not be enough for him to beat alone. Except for Urtiga. At the same time, the intermediary captain retreated to the corner and took out the PDI communicator to call the director. Director, my name is Irumake, and this is what happened. Yeah, yes. Okay, I know. At this time, Jack had finished listening to the entire conversation, and the stone in his heart finally fell. Although the dog system is stingy, its efficiency is still acceptable. At least it didn't give him a youth version of the reward. Now is not the time to conflict with TPC. He doesn't want to fight to the death with the largest organization in the entire human race without gaining anything. It's not that it's impossible, it's just that it's not cost-effective. Welcome, Captain Ake. Irumahue smiled and extended his hand. Hello. Yak smiled politely, but there was a big question mark in his mind. Isn't he a special team member? What's the situation with his captain? Could it be that Soichiro Sawai directly asked Kei Iruma to get off the horse and helped him up? Captain of the mediation, how come this, is also? Daegyu was a little confused. It was understandable for a member of the airborne team, but it was his first time as an airborne captain. Facing everyone's doubts, Irumahue explained, Captain Yak was appointed by Director Sawai. As the captain of the logistics support squad of our combat department, it is said that Captain Yak is proficient in various myths and legends, and has a lot of research on monsters. Now, all eyes turn to Yak. The monsters have only been around for a short time, but this captain named Yak has done a lot of research on them, which makes it hard not to be suspicious. Ahem. That's it. Yak cleared his throat and began to make up a story. In fact, before Melba and Galzin appeared, we began to know about the existence of monsters and started to study them. However, these studies were top secret and only a few people knew about them. Oh. So that's it. Captain Yak, please take care of me in the future. Everyone responded with smiles and began to introduce themselves. After getting to know each other, Captain Aiko said, the situation is urgent now. I will explain the details during the flight. Team member Lina and Vice Captain Zhongfang will go first on plane number 1, and the rest of you will go on plane No. 2. As for Captain Yak, just come with me. I am coming too. Yak immediately volunteered, I have done enough research on monsters. As the captain of the support squad, it is a must to go to the battlefield in person. This. Irumahue was stunned for a moment, then seeing Ark's determined face, he nodded and said, Captain Ark, please take Unit 2. Please be careful. After getting on the Fian 2, Jack was a little excited. This was his first time riding in a fighter jet. Well, take a photo as a souvenir. Seeing this, team member Horii smiled bitterly and said, Captain Yak, you have a really good attitude. The rest of the people were also confused by Yak. Who would carry a camera with him to take selfies when going on a mission? Does this person really have good professional skills? Hello, this is the headquarters, I'm Megami Iruma. The incident occurred on Carrera Island in the southwestern islands. Construction workers on the island were attacked by unknown creatures, and several people went missing during the construction. According to the detection of TPC team members stationed on the scene, there were signs of huge unknown life. In order to prevent a crisis, our mission this time is to find out the cause, so please proceed with caution. Understand? Okay, Captain. The team members responded one after another in the communicator. In Fian 2, Horii muttered to himself, construction team member, I remember it was a very large quarry. After listening to everyone's conversation, Yak said, speaking of Carrera Island, it reminds me of a myth. What myth? Horii asked. Captain Yak, could you please elaborate on this? The communicator was never turned off, and Kei Iruma on the other end was also aroused. Yak played with the camera in his hand and said, that is a local deity called Gakuma. It is said that Gakuma stores stones as its own food, and this quarry keeps digging stones, robbing the things that originally belonged to Gakuma for survival. Yak paused and smiled, I think I've said too much. Of course, this is all a joke. Just listen to it. There was silence on the communicator. Lina whispered, suppose this is true, is there no way to solve it? This is a question on many people's minds. If it is true, is there no hope for the Gakuma as a native creature and the human population to coexist? Yake did not answer this question, but quietly played with the camera in his hand. He is both a monster and a human. It must be said that the improved Fiian is fast. After a short while, we arrived over Carrera Island. After landing, we saw some TPC members in blue combat uniforms placing something. Not far away, there was a man who looked like an officer directing the scene. Jack looked carefully. It was Sawai Soichiro. Everyone in the operations department, thank you for your hard work. Director Sawai smiled and stepped forward to greet him. This should be Captain Yak, who was transferred from the Huaxia branch. He is indeed a handsome man. Thank you for your praise, Director Zijing. I hope you will take good care of me in the future. Yak smiled in agreement and silently gave his dear system baby a thumbs up. It really is watertight. Yake pointed at the busy TPC players and asked, where are the directors and their men? Oh, that's right. Director Sawai explained, after investigating the scene, we basically confirmed that there was an extremely dangerous giant monster underground. We also lost several team members because of this. In order to reduce unnecessary casualties, we decided to lure out the monster and use a large number of bombs to eliminate this threat. Boom! 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 The ground was shaking in a rhythmic pattern, with huge tremors causing rocks in the quarry to fall. The deputy ran up with the detector in his arms, shouting, Director! Director! We've detected a reaction from a giant life form. It's coming. Okay, everyone get ready. Chapter 10. The monster is coming. All TPC team members moved faster, and Director Sawai stopped chatting and stepped forward to supervise. Captain Yak, can these bombs really destroy the monsters? Looking at the busy people, Daegyu felt confused. He didn't understand what the appearance of the giant meant, nor did he know what he should do. Yake raised his eyebrows. Here it comes, the human body's signature program, the period of self-confusion. If this were my previous life. On the first day, I will protect our planet. The next day, I will protect my planet. On the third day, I don't eat beef. Why are you confused? Mostly you're just bored. You'll wake up after being beaten up by monsters a couple of times. Faced with the inquiry, Yake did not say it clearly, but asked, do you think these things can be used? In fact, Daegu knew everything. During the battle with Melba, he realized that the power of ordinary explosives could not even break the monster's skin. Daegu asked anxiously, what should we do then? Yake spread his hands helplessly, don't worry, when Galzan appeared, wasn't he accompanied by a giant? Let's wait for him to come and save us. Why do we have to wait for the giants to save us? Shouldn't humans create miracles themselves when they are in danger? Daegyu clenched his fists and became inexplicably excited. Lena on the side seemed to sense something and asked with concern, Daegu, are you okay? Boom! At this time, on the distant hill, a huge monster rushed out from the ground. The horn on the monster's forehead emitted an orange-yellow light. It looked ferociously at the ant-sized humans on the ground, roaring and slapping the ridges to vent the pent-up anger in its heart. Gakuma, that's Gakuma, the legendary god is real. The miners collapsed on the ground, looking at the towering monster, muttering to themselves, what we did has already angered the god, and now he can no longer suppress his anger. The scene was in chaos. Although there had been early warning, the appearance of the monster still gave humans some small shock. Don't panic, we at TPC will protect everyone. Not far away, Director Sawai was struggling to maintain order while ordering, light a fire and blow him up. Yes. The assistant held the computer in his hands and tapped lightly a few times. Boom! 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 When the monster arrived at the designated location, all the buried bombs exploded. The roaring sound was deafening. Everyone present, except for Yak and Daegyu, covered their ears. The dust produced by the explosion obscured everyone's vision, and everything was grey. Success! The monster has been destroyed. The TPC team members around Director Sawai shouted excitedly, they once again protected humanity. Pointing at the excited people, Yak's eyes had an inexplicable meaning, and he said to Daegyu, you see, this is the root of human inferiority, blindly believing that simple stone tools can penetrate steel plates, but what awaits you is indeed even more explosive anger. Only after experiencing pain will human beings wake up and pursue the truth, but it won't be long before they fall into depravity again. Daegyu, do you think it's worth it? Captain Yak, what do you mean? Daegu avoided the question and didn't dare to face it directly. I mean be careful. Be careful, ah. Before Daegu could react, he was kicked away by Yak, and the place where he had just stood was occupied by fallen rocks half a person's height. So close. Daegu was lying on the ground, sweat dripping down his back. If it weren't for Captain Ark's kick, he would really have gone to see Tiga. Roar! As everyone was celebrating, an even more angry roar erupted in the smoke and dust, and the huge outline of the monster emerged. Rays of petrifying light shot out from Gakuma's mouth, and those who didn't have time to escape were instantly turned into stone. It is not dead. TPC failed. Run. The monster is not dead yet, run. It petrifies people, that's Gakuma. The crowd that had gathered together scattered in an instant, with cries and howls emanating one after another. Sawai Soichiro's face was solemn. Everyone in TPC, attack the monsters and cover the ordinary people to leave. Yes. It is undeniable that there are always human beings willing to step forward in times of crisis. Yak could clearly feel the grievance and anger in the monster's heart, and he could also feel Director Sawai's determination to die. Since the captain of the intermediate team is not here, all members of the operations department must follow my command and attack immediately to intercept the monster. Yes. The members of the combat department were all elites who had been screened through layers of screening. They quickly recovered from the shock of the monster not being dead and quickly threw themselves into the battle. Hey! Soon, Fiyin No. 1 flew over Yak and shot at the horn on Gakuma's head. The green laser hit Gakuma, sending out sparks, and the burning pain stimulated its already small brain. Roar ah ah! Why are you invading my territory? You bugs, why do you want to rob my food? Die, all of you! Gakuma roared and sprayed out petrifying rays, but no one except Yak could understand what it said. Hurry up and dodge. If the Fiyin is hit by the petrifying ray, the entire fuselage will fall apart immediately. Vice Captain Zhong Feng gritted his teeth and continuously shot out laser beams. The monster is enraged. Draw its attention and keep it away from the crowd. Yes. Team member Lena, the driver, nodded in response, speeding up and passing in front of Gakuma to attract the monster's attention. And at an extremely dangerous flying angle, the belly of the plane just brushed the sharp corner of Gakuma's back. I have to say, this method is indeed useful. The hatred was transferred to Fiyin No. 1, and with it the danger of a crash at any time. Gakuma is on all fours, but that doesn't mean it has no way to deal with the little bugs flying around in front of it. It raised its body and stood in an extremely strange posture, and its entire height instantly surpassed the low-flying Fiyin. Lena was also startled by this sudden action and reacted immediately. Fiyin 1 twisted quickly and ran its engine at full speed to dodge. Click! Gakuma's front paw slapped the engine at the tail of Fiyin No. 1. Got hit. Lena. On the ground, Daegyu's pupils widened and he quickly pulled out the magic stick from his arms. In Fiyin No. 1, the huge shock caused fire to burst out in the cab. The huge tremor indicated one thing: if the Fiyin No. 1, which had just been modified and not tested, really fell to the ground, there was an 80% probability that 2 people would die. At the critical moment, a giant radiating golden light caught Fiyin No. 1. Yak, who witnessed the whole transformation process, was holding a cup of tea that he got from somewhere and took a sip. The best way to stimulate potential is for your wife to get into trouble. Daegu, you have to grow up quickly. Being confused won't work. Hiss, should I increase Tiga's strength? Chapter 11. What it is. Look, what a huge golden giant. The giant saved the swallow. Giant, destroy that monster, destroy it. The appearance of Ultraman Tiga brought a little comfort to the TPC players. Some of them even shouted that they hoped to kill the monster. Roar, who? Leave, stay away from. Gakuma has a low IQ and can only express his thoughts in simple words. It was obvious that Tiga's size made it feel uneasy. The shouts of the crowd and the warnings of the monsters were intertwined. Ultraman Tiga stood there silently. It was obvious that what Ark said had affected Daegu. He hesitated. A composite of monster and human, an inexplicable emotion swept over Yak. That won't do. Yak muttered to himself, as a human being, you still can't refuse a human's request, no matter whether the request is good or bad. The malice of the former god was passed on to Daegu, and his calls finally formed one sentence: destroy it. In the end, Ultraman Tiga, no. Daegu compromised. Tiga did not respond to Gakuma's warning and silently assumed a fighting stance. Go back underground, Gakuma. Intruder! 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 Gakuma roared and rushed towards Tiga, hitting Tiga's abdomen with his own weight. Boom! With a weight of nearly 50,000 tons, Tiga flew backwards and hit the ground heavily. Gakuma rode on Tiga and hit his chest with his sharp front claws. 1, 2, 3 times. The venting attack came down without mercy. Why doesn't the giant fight back? Asked the humans watching the battle in confusion. Fight back! Destroy it! Destroy it! More and more humans began to shout, gradually forming a huge wave, surging. In the huge waves, Jack quietly sipped tea, like a fisherman fishing. In response to people's calls, Tiga endured the pain, used all his strength to knock Gakuma over, quickly stood up and chopped Gakuma on the back with a knife. As they intersected, flames flew everywhere. Roar! Gakuma roared in pain. Having been dormant for a long time, it is no match for Tiga. Intruder! Deceiver! Betrayer! With its back to the ridge, Gakuma roared at Tiga and the humans, and was surrounded by waves of sound like the ocean. It's so sad. Yak silently felt the sadness in Gakuma's heart. The god who once protected mankind had his food taken away and his territory occupied by humans, and finally wanted to be killed by humans. Gakuma opened his fang-filled mouth, gathering wisps of blue energy. And Tiga just watched and waited quietly. After a few breaths, the petrifying ray was ejected with all his strength and hit Tiga. Under the influence of the petrifying light, grey-brown stones began to spread from under the feet of Ultraman Tiga and gradually reached the timer with a red light. Tiga raised his hands above his head and slashed downwards. Cha! The crystal on the forehead burst into red light. Boom! The originally solidified stones exploded instantly, and Tiga appeared in front of the world in a new form, a powerful form. Leave here! Ultraman Tiga stared into Gakuma's eyes and conveyed his thoughts. The petrifying ray just now had used up all of its strength, and now it could only collapse limply on the ground. Before the Gakuma could respond, a powerful laser hit it. Boom! 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 Under the energy bombardment, Gakuma, who was already exhausted, was killed instantly and turned into stone and disappeared on the spot. Don't want! Inside Tiga's body, Dagu looked at everything that happened in disbelief, and turned his head to look. It is the victory Fian 2. Great, the monster has been destroyed. Great, Gakuma is finally dead. Thanks to the giants and the TPC players. The praises came one after another, as if they were addressed to a god. Looking back, it seems that someone had been treated like this before. Sad god. Yak sighed. Such a blow would cause great harm to Deko, who had just become an Ultraman. The noisy joy of the quarry does not belong to Tiga. He was there, watching the smoke rising from the guns. The giant is sad. Lena stood on the deck of Fian No. 1 and murmured into the communicator, I feel his sadness. The monster was destroyed, wasn't it? Horii asked, could it be because of the human that was petrified by the monster just now? From the perspective of giants and monsters, the two should be in a hostile relationship. Almost no one believes that giants will be sad because of the death of monsters. In response to the confusion of the TPC team members, Yak also gave a reply, friendly reminder, the petrification of Gakuma is not complete, it only needs to be cracked from the outside world. In short, the god did not kill him even when he was extremely angry. After that, he said with a faint smile, what a stupid god, isn't it? After Ark's explanation, except for Tiga, the members of the operations department fell into deathly silence. Captain Yak, you mean, Gakuma? Bing gong. 1 point for a correct answer. Yak said softly. The feeling of guilt like a maggot clinging to one's bones and the suffocating feeling like being at the bottom of the sea linger in everyone's heart. Boom! Boom! 2 loud landslides were heard, and everyone in the quarry looked at each other with joy. Yak said very timely, I forgot to mention that according to historical records, there is more than one god on Carrera Island. Lena exclaimed, Captain Yak, what does it mean that there is more than one god? Ugh! Yak sighed, shook his head and said, silly child, it means I have to start running away. On Carrera Island, there are actually 2 gods, and they are brothers. Monsters' understanding of family affection is almost negligible. But one thing is certain, the second Gakuma is now increasingly angry because of the death of his younger brother who he had been with day and night. Roar! Gakuma Beta, cf. Unlike the first Gakuma, Gakuma Beta has two forehead horns, and the protrusions on its back are more ferocious and red and yellow. As soon as he emerged from underground, Gakuma Beta set his sights on Fan 2, which was hanging in the air in the distance. It was the murderer who killed his brother. Without any further explanation, the monster spat out a blue petrifying ray of light from its mouth and shot towards Fan number 2. This time, the attack was merciless. Bang! A figure flew backwards. It was Tiga. Ultraman Tiga stood in front of Fan number 2 and took the petrification ray. Roar! Damn invaders! Seeing that his attack was blocked, Gakuma Beta began to prepare for his next round of attack. The two long horns on the monster's head bent forward and turned into two ramming horns. Its entire body sank into the ground and rushed towards Tiga at an extremely fast speed. It must first deal with the giant that is blocking it. Hey, hhh! Gakuma Beta broke through the rocks and its two horns stabbed Tiga hard. In an instant, Ultraman Tiga turned into starlight and dissipated. The red light and low health, coupled with the sense of inner condemnation, had wiped out his desire to fight. In the distance, Yake, who was watching the battle, said with a sigh, "Someone has to bear the consequences, right?" Chapter 12. The disappearance of Ultraman Tiga left the already angry monsters without an object to vent their anger on. Gradually, it turned its attention to the humans fleeing in all directions. "Damn you, blasphemer!" Gakuma twisted his huge body and crashed into the raised ridges. Boom! 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 The originally hollowed-out hills collapsed one after another, and countless pits were crushed. Both the TPC team members and the mining team were knocked to the ground like wheat being cut. Those who are unlucky will fall directly into the deep cave and become burial objects. The devastated land, the bumpy gravel holes, the human suffering everywhere. This is what hell looks like. Fate has already marked the price of what the people of Kurashima do. Yak easily avoided the flying debris and came to Daegyu's side. The bruised and battered Daegyu leaned on the stone, looking lonely, and it seemed that he was completely trapped in a vicious circle. Yak raised his eyebrows, thinking that he had gone too far and it would be bad if he lost his fighting spirit. "Daegu, what's wrong with you? Where is your quality as a combat unit member?" "Captain Ark." Daegyu raised his head and asked in an almost pleading tone, "What should I do?" Gakuma is unwilling to hurt humans even in this situation, but humans have abandoned it for their own interests. The light in the giant's heart was flickering, and the faint light was crumbling. What the hell? This is really too much. Jack never expected that this blow almost broke the faith of Ultraman's human body. He gritted his teeth and threw a left punch at Daegyu. "What are you thinking about? Since you know this problem exists, you should find a way to solve it instead of sighing like a coward." Yak snatched Daegyu's hypa gun, turned around angrily, and rushed towards the monster. The sudden punch stunned Daegyu. "He hit me?" Daegyu reached out to pull Yak, but he was a step too slow. Yak's back was instantly submerged in the haze. "Captain Ark." Miraculously, after this punch, Daegyu's Deo heart was stabilized. Although it was still a little dim, at least it would not be destroyed. On the other side, Yak's originally angry expression turned into a dead fish face again in the next second. After studying the hyper rifle slowly for a while, he pointed the muzzle at Gakuma and quickly emptied the magazine. Clap 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 clap. Red lasers hit Gakuma, emitting brilliant sparks. Are the people in the equipment department just drawing a salary for nothing? This gun looks good, but it's just a little damaged. If it wasn't for attracting the monster's attention, I would really have to go back and write an application to replace the hyper rifle with an RPG. Yake curled his lips. Tisk, after all, I have to take the stage. Boss, come out and receive the guests. A blue light gushed out from Jack's heart, and Godzilla rose up from the empty ground. Roar! The ferocious aura overwhelmed the entire scene. The fleeing humans stopped and stared blankly at the newly appeared monster. It was the feeling of being stared at by a superior, and it was the difference in the essence of life. Even the angry Gakuma Beta became calmer at this moment. That's Godzilla, that weird monster has appeared again. At the TPC headquarters, the captain of the team suddenly stood up and looked at the figure on the screen in disbelief. Retreat! Retreat immediately! After reacting, Irumahue ordered into the intercom, immediately contact the rest of the team members at the scene, and everyone must immediately organize a retreat. She had a hunch that Godzilla was here to fight Gakuma. Two huge monsters fought each other. Thinking of the last battle between the three-headed monster and Ultramantiga, Irumake couldn't help but shudder. Godzilla would never care whether anyone died after the fight. Yak's sudden arrival scared Gakuma. Godzilla's huge size is a huge pressure for the crawling Gakuma on all fours. Roar! Gakuma Beta bravely howled at Yak. Young monster, I know you can understand me. Now I give you two choices. The first was beaten to death by me, the second surrendered. Choose. Yak domineeringly gave two options without any room for negotiation. On the other hand, Gakuma raised his front paws and gently dug the ground. It was obvious that he didn't want to choose. Yak smiled and said, "My cute little fellow, let me show you how big the gap is between monsters." Coax. Having accumulated enough strength, Gakuma used his sharp horns to break through the hill. The hard rock was cut like butter, just like an angry bull. Gakuma slammed into Jak with tremendous energy, and the dull sound was like a punch hitting cowhide. Hoo ho ho! After the collision, Gakuma let out a series of low groans, as if celebrating his victory in advance. But when he was about to look up, he found that his head was fixed. He, little guy, you don't think I'll be like that novice pilot just now and be knocked flying by you, do you? Yak held onto the sharp corners of Gakuma with both of his claws, and kept sighing, I have to say, you are quite strong. It hurts my hand. Roar! Gakuma was panicked, completely panicked. It twisted its head frantically, but found that it couldn't break free. That monster was actually stronger than me. Come, let me show you what the king of monsters is. Yak concentrated his energy into his danshin, exerted force with his arms, and actually lifted up Gakuma's huge body. Seeing such a horrifying scene, both Captain Junja and Director Sawai gasped. There was only one question running through their minds, what on earth is this monster? After lifting it up, Yak slammed Gakuma to the ground. Then he lifted it up again and smashed it to the ground. Over and over again, the wind and sand stirred up were enough to create a sandstorm, and a hole was smashed into the ground. It took 5 attempts before Yak finally put Gakuma down. What a thrilling fight! Yak sighed comfortably, now I will give you one last chance, surrender or die. In the world of monsters, there is only one rule, the strong take all and the weak eat dust. I submit. Gakuma shouted weakly, and this time he finally stopped roaring and showed some courtesy. There was a flash of blue light, and both Gakuma and Godzilla disappeared. Quick, check where they went, said the captain of the intermediary team. Yes. Team member Yerui looked at the data in front of him and searched frantically, but after a while, he was like a pickle, Captain, the monitors on the scene can't measure any data at all. This technology is completely unhuman. This, sigh. Irumahue nodded and could only sigh helplessly. The sun sets on Carrera Island. The afterglow of the setting sun shines on the face of every living person. Captain Yak! Captain Yak, where are you? Daegya searched around the ruins, calling out Yak's name, and the guilt in his heart grew stronger. He couldn't imagine how an ordinary human being could survive under such circumstances. Just when he was about to give up, a hand gently rested on his shoulder. Hey, isn't this Team Daegyu? Why are you looking so sad? Daegyu looked for the source of the sound and saw it was Yak. Yak handed the hypa gun to Daegyu, here. As a result of Daegyu's trembling, tears appeared in his eyes, Captain Yak, I. Before he could finish, Yak interrupted him and said, don't think you don't have to write a self-criticism just because you're like this. This won't happen again. I am. Under the setting sun, the light is still warm. Chapter 13. For the two huge creatures that suddenly appeared in front of us, I heard that TPC named them Ultramantiga and Godzilla, right? Captain Jujian, is it possible that this huge creature that suddenly appeared could pose a threat to us? A talk show was playing on the TV in the bakery, and the person being interviewed was the captain of the victory team, Megami Iruma. Yak, aren't you also at TPC? Are these true? Mingri, who was very busy, took some time to ask. I'm just a clerk at TPC, but it's true. Yak calmly took a sip of tea and continued to slowly arrange the baked bread. Because the food in the bakery is extremely delicious and there are no idle people causing trouble, business is extremely good. Even Yak had to take part in the battle himself, otherwise it would be difficult to handle the situation with just Mingri and her daughter alone. Then don't you need to go to work? Asked Ming Rizai.
Actually, I'm at work right now.
Yake explained with a smile, out on duty.
Yeah.
The TV suddenly emitted a sharp electric sound. Everyone looked. In the talk show, the host who was originally dressed elegantly is now suspended in the air with disheveled hair. The earth will be reborn soon, and the sacred fire will burn away all filth. The Kurioids will prove it to you. After the female host finished speaking, she fell to the ground. The TV program was also interrupted immediately. The bakery was completely silent. Suddenly, as if he sensed something, Yak quietly retreated behind the crowd and walked towards the second floor. Following my inner feeling, I came to my bedroom. He saw a man sitting on a chair, looking at him with a smile. Who are you? Asked Jack. I am a prophet, responsible for delivering information. The man said with a smile. I smell a familiar scent from you. Yake frowned and gently closed the door. What's that smell? The man asked puzzled. Yak suddenly disappeared from the spot, and the next moment he appeared in front of the man and punched him hard in the face. You are pretending to be a prophet, but I can smell the alien stench on you from 800 meters away. Prophet? Can you predict whether I will slap you in the face today? Stop. Stop it. You have no moral principles. The man screamed while protecting his face. Why would I talk to a mysterious alien like you about martial ethics? With a fierce look in his eyes, Yak punched the man one after another until he disappeared on the spot. Tut, shit. Yak spat out a mouthful of saliva, and his mood instantly became much better. Diddy diddy. At this time, the PDI communicator on Yak's waist rang. After the call was connected, Daegyu's anxious voice came from inside. Captain Yak, something bad has happened. TPC headquarters. Everyone on the victory team took their seats. According to the on-site investigation, we did not find any remaining traces of gunpowder and explosives. Team member Hori, who was at the scene, sent the results. I think it might be caused by some kind of force from a long distance. Team member Yerui expressed his opinion. Irumake covered his head, unable to hide his fatigue, then applied to the Space Development Center for satellite inspection. Yes. Yak, who was slacking off, said, I don't think it was a strike from outer space. I suggest we observe it on site again. Hey, I'm going to take a rest. The captain sighed, left the hall and returned to the room. Looking at the photo on the desk, Captain Junction looked lonely. It was a photo of her son. Hello, Captain Intermediate. In the dim room, a man appeared in a seat not far away. Who are you? Akuma Hui's pupil shrank, and he reached for the hyper rifle at his waist, but saw that it was a human. You. I'm a prophet. The man smiled gently. Irumahue raised his eyebrows and quietly pressed the alarm button under the table. Prophet? Then why do you have a bruised face? Let's not talk about this. The man looked embarrassed and continued talking about his own things. We need the victory team to show respect to the Kurioid people, and you, Megami Iruma, as the captain of the victory team, must first ensure that you show due respect. The man stood up, walked slowly to the table, picked up the photo on the table and looked at it. If you don't show due respect, then the Kurioids will continue to rain down the flames of revenge. Guess where it will be? How about the K1 area? Irumahue remained silent, waiting for the arrival of her team members. The man seemed to have noticed something and said impatiently, what an ignorant human being. Then he threw the photo away and disappeared. Snapped. The door of Irumahue's room was kicked open, and the one leading the group was none other than Yak. Hey? You just ran away. What a coward. Yak muttered softly. Captain, are you okay? Daegu and Lina, holding hypa guns, asked about the situation of Zhu Jianhui. At this time, everyone's PDI communicators also rang. It's bad, Captain. Another building in the K1 area was blown up, causing a large number of casualties. In the communicator, team member Yerui said doubtfully, our satellites did not detect any attack from outer space, so it is very likely that, as Captain Yak said, the attack came from underground. As he spoke, Jack picked up the photo on the ground. After being enhanced by Godzilla, everything that was left on it was clearly visible. One belongs to Irumake, and the other belongs to that mysterious man. Start the system. Yake said, analyze what's on it for me and retrieve the information. There are intelligent systems everywhere in TPC headquarters, which can be used to retrieve information, communicate, and make inquiries. Lena saw Yake fiddling with something at the table and asked, Captain Yake, what are you doing? Yake didn't say anything, but stepped aside and pointed at the computer. Here, the information you want. On the computer screen was the man who claimed to be a prophet. His name was Itabashi Mitsuo. What? Lena covered her mouth. Captain Ye. Captain Yak, how did you do it? Yake threw the photo to the captain of the mediation team, stretched his waist and walked out. Actually, I am also a prophet. Looking at Yak's receding back, the captain explained, it's a fingerprint. That's right, even Yak didn't expect that the Kurioids would not only pretend to be mysterious, but also pretend to be so real that they even did not spare fingerprints. In the hall, a middle-aged man holding a small fan shouted at Vice Captain Zhong Feng, this is already the second attack. Why hasn't the victory team made any progress? If we don't fight back quickly, there will be more casualties. Vice Captain Munakata explained, Captain Yoshioka, we have launched an investigation with all our strength and have already grasped their attack pattern. The person questioning them was Tetsuji Yoshioka, the chief of the TPC Police Bureau, former admiral of the Earth Defense Force, and an old friend of Sawai who had known each other for many years. But unlike Sawai, Tetsuji Yoshioka was a strong representative of the war supporters, and held the view of expanding armaments and taking the initiative, which was usually contrary to the opinions of Chief of Staff Nanhara. Shut up! Commander Yoshioka's face darkened as he said, it all comes down to your incompetence and your captain's inaction. Just as the members of the victory team were bowing their heads and being scolded, a lazy voice came from the entrance of the hall. In that case, if you have the guts, go ahead and do it. Why are you making such a fuss? Everyone turned their heads and saw Yak leaning against the door frame, looking at Chief Yoshioka provocatively, why are you looking at me? Come and practice with me if you have the guts. Chapter 14. You. Officer Yoshioka's eyes widened and he asked in disbelief, what did you just say? He couldn't believe his ears. Someone from the victory team actually dared to challenge him. Can't you hear this clearly? Yake used his little finger to pick his ear and said, when you get old, you should retire. Don't point fingers at people you don't understand. Isn't it better to enjoy your old age? How dare you? How dare you? What's your name and which department are you from? Tetsuo Yoshioka's eyes turned red with anger. Yake said nonchalantly, my name is Yake, the captain of the equipment support team. As for which department I'm from? Yake paused. I'm from the Huaxia branch and now report directly to Director Zijing. As a police chief, you have no right to manage me. If you have the guts, ask the director to remove me. To be honest, Jack was not afraid at all. According to the system, he is a person with a very high confidentiality level, and his own value is far from being controlled by a single superior. Tetsuo Yoshioka tightly grasped the fan in his hand, his head filled with anger. He had never expected that a mere young man would dare to contradict him. If my Earth Defense Force hadn't been laid off. Captain Yoshioka, you need to calm down. Seeing that the situation was about to get out of control, Staff Officer Nanyuan on the side hurriedly stepped forward and pulled Tetsuo Yoshioka, and whispered a few words in his ear as if to warn him. Finally, Tetsuo Yoshioka's face changed, he snorted coldly and turned away, but he did not forget to leave a harsh word, Yake, you wait for me. Yake rolled his eyes and said, Tisk, you're just pretending. Hey, Captain Yake, you have to understand. Staff Officer Nanyuan stepped forward and said soothingly, Commander Yoshioka has a bad temper. I apologize for this, and I hope you don't take it to heart. After saying this, he bowed in person. Yoshioka is a typical hardcore human faction who advocates the combination of blood and fire. Of course, Ark doesn't care about this. But in the face of such a sincere apology, Yak just nodded, indicating that he understood Chief of Staff Nanyuan's painstaking efforts. Then I'll leave first. Nanyuan smiled apologetically to everyone and left. As soon as Nanyuan Masayuki disappeared, everyone rushed over. Captain Yak, you were so cool just now. You actually dared to confront Commander Yoshioka. Commander Yoshioka is too fierce. He refuses to understand our work at all and likes to give us orders. That's it. Everyone was talking about it, and it was obvious how serious Tetsuo Yoshioka was on a daily basis. Vice Captain Munakata frowned and said, Captain Yak, are you really okay like this? Commander Yoshioka is not the kind of person who is easy to talk to. No big deal. Yake shook his head and said, Yoshioka doesn't have the authority to command me. As for tripping me up, he can try. As he spoke, Jack showed his white teeth. No, because of Godzilla, it should be a mouthful of fangs. Ordinary humans slipped and fell into the water, and were not rescued in time, and eventually drowned. This makes sense. That night, Yak didn't rush back, but turned to the home of Jiao Ban Guangxiang, who called himself a prophet. Dala Dala. The sound of crisp footsteps was heard. Yak looked up and hid in the dark in surprise. The person who got off the car was Kei Iruma, the captain of the victory team. Why is she here? Is she acting alone? Iruma Hui was also a little nervous at this time, but she felt relieved only when she touched the HEP rifle in her bag. I turned the door handle gently, and strangely, the door was not locked. After entering, it was dark inside, with furniture covered with white cloth everywhere. When you run your finger across the glass, a layer of dust will stick to it. This place has been uninhabited for a long time. With doubts in mind, I went to the computer and opened the PDI communicator I carried with me. Start the system, TPC code 00261, Victory Team Captain Irumake. Immediately, the computer ran quickly. The Metropolitan system has been activated. What do you need to query? What's the name of the owner of this house? According to the information, the owner of the house is named Itabashi Mitsuo, but the information has not been updated for 3 years. Iruma Hui's pupils shrank suddenly. This meant that Itabashi Mitsuo had been missing for 3 years, combined with previous events. There is only one conclusion: Jack is right. That Itabashi Mitsuo is fake, he is from Kurioid. Suddenly, as if realizing something, Irumake pointed the gun behind him. A light suddenly appeared before my eyes, and I was sure that it was definitely not a human. Who are you? Guangying didn't say anything, but instantly sent out several mental waves, nailing Iruma Hui to the wall. At this time, Itabashi Mitsuo came out from the dark and said, Captain Irumake, we meet again. Iruma Hui said, why do you do this? What on earth do you Kurioid people want to do? It's all because of you. Itabashi Mitsuo gnashed his teeth and said, because you want to acknowledge the existence of those two guys. We came to this planet earlier than them, but they are so rampant. This is something that the Kurioid people cannot tolerate. Clap clap clap. Crisp applause echoed in the room. All I've said is that I'm just a mouse in the dark, seeing others standing in the sun and feeling jealous and hateful. Jack, who had just finished watching the show, came on stage. He thought these shitty aliens had such lofty ambitions and rationality. It's you. What do you mean? How dare you insult the noble Kurioid people? The veins on Itabashi Mitsuo's neck bulged, and he was obviously very angry. Insult? I didn't insult you. Yake said doubtfully, aren't mice just mice? Besides, in my eyes, there is really no difference between you and mice. From Yak's indifferent eyes, the captain read a very important message. Yak looked down on all aliens equally. Is this really a human being? Okay, no more nonsense. Yake unbuttoned the top few buttons of his collar. Let's continue practicing. After saying that, he rushed to Itabashi Mitsuo at an extremely fast speed and punched him in the stomach with a heavy punch. Pfft! Itabashi Mitsuo flew out in a folding manner, hitting the tables and chairs and screaming. At the same time, the bound Irumake finally landed on the ground and looked at the scene in disbelief. Yak actually knocked the alien away with one punch. Is this really a human being? Hey, wimp out, let's get on with it. Yak assumed a standard fighting stance, looking forward to continuing the fight. But Itabashi Mitsuo was completely stunned. I was actually knocked away by a human. Who is the alien? You just wait to be purified by the sacred fire. After saying that, he disappeared in a panic. Coward. As soon as Yak finished cursing, he sensed a huge force of energy approaching rapidly from underground. Chapter 15. Captain Yak, this is bad. I've detected a huge amount of energy rising rapidly from underground. Get out of the building you're in. In the PDI communicator, Team Nori urged them to leave. Without saying a word, Yak picked up Iruma Hui from the ground and ran away. Captain Yak, what's going on? It's too late to explain. Yak ran very fast. If there were other people at the scene, they would find that the two people were moving in a blurry afterimage. The attack from underground is coming. Please avoid it as soon as possible. Team member Yerui reported on time. Yak felt unhappy. Although he could teleport, how to explain it to Irumake later was a big problem. Damn those Kurioids. Coax. Boom. There were two earth-shaking explosions. In the eyes of Akuma Hue, who was being carried, the building that seemed to be intact just now suddenly exploded. The flames rising into the sky were like New Year's fireworks, and the scattered embers were huge concrete stones. At this moment, Jack exerted force with his feet, flipped over the top of a car and hid behind the car body. Bang! Coincidentally, a piece of cement block as big as a desk hit the roof of the car. My car! Irumake cried out in pain. Yake pretended to be tired and panted, patted her shoulder and said, "It's good to be alive. Let's go and get the car reimbursed." Although Irumake acted on her own, it is normal for the captain of the victory team to go on a mission alone. Before that, Daegu, who came with him, had already evacuated the nearby residents. So, this time the Kurioids caused 0 damage. Team Zinken, the latest order is to cancel the attack. Everyone is on emergency alert to prevent the possible appearance of alien rats. Yes. Yes. Their original plan was to find the underground attack position on site and then use microwave cannons to launch a preemptive attack. But unfortunately, due to Ark's intrusion, the Kurioid people were completely irritated. There was not even a moment of reaction time, he attacked directly. But Ark knew very well that based on the character of the Kurioid people, they would never give up. First, they were overshadowed by Tiga and Godzilla, and then they were hit twice by Ark, and their faces were thrown out of the solar system. Damn victory team, and those damn humans, you will receive the wrath of God. Itabashi Mitsuo roared, and the ground cracked, revealing fiery red flames. In the flames that shot up into the sky, the fire demon warriors, the Kurioids, are here. The name is too long, so we will call them the Kurioids. The head of the key man resembles a crying face, with a red heart shining on his left chest. The armor on his body tightly wraps some vital parts, but does not make him look particularly bloated. Human, you have seen the true appearance of us, the genes. We are the real gods. The key people pointed at Yak, hoping to see the fear and awe of the mortals in his great body. But Yak sneered disdainfully and made an international friendly gesture. What do you mean, you foolish mortal? The furious key man instantly realized that he was humiliated and sent out a mental wave. Since the base people have grown huge, even the mental waves they emit have grown huge as well. Is Yak afraid? He was not afraid at all because he knew there was someone watching him. Just when the mental wave was about to hit, a huge figure stopped it. It was Tiga. Ultraman Tiga intercepted the mental wave with one hand and squeezed it hard. Boom! The concentrated energy ball exploded instantly. But we know that energy does not appear out of thin air, nor does it disappear out of thin air, it only changes from one form to another. The mental wave exploded, turning into something similar to a large-scale mental shock. So, the captain of the intermediate team was stunned. The captain fainted, but the others didn't notice because the atmosphere was tense and Kito and Tiga were confronting each other. Yak raised 10 fingers and taunted the guy, "If you are bad at it, practice more. If you can't afford it, don't play. You, ha, you human, you deserve to die." The key man pointed at Yak, and the yellow crystal in the middle of his face showed signs of turning red, and it was obvious that he was very angry. "Tiga, you take it first. I'll take the captain to hide." Yak saluted Ultraman Tiga, then picked up Irumake again and left without looking back. "Don't go." Kito rushed forward to vent his anger, but was stopped by Tiga. "It's you again, why is it you again?" The key man said angrily, "Are you planning to be the protector of this planet? Don't you think that's ridiculous? We, the Kiss, arrived here earlier than you, and the people of this planet have been waiting for the Kiss to lead them. And you, Ultraman Tiga, are nothing but a bandit who intends to destroy the great plan of the Key Jin." Tiga didn't say anything, but just looked at him quietly. "Why don't you speak? Are you making fun of me?" Jiren was almost mad. He had never been ridiculed like he had in the past few days in his life. But the reality is that the novice driver Daegu has not yet mastered how to turn on the microphone to communicate. Although he was angry, the key man still took a fighting stance. It seemed as if Tiga understood what was going on and he also assumed a fighting stance. Headquarters, what's going on? Should we go forward to help? The new city team members on the Fian looked confused. Is this a one-on-one real man showdown? Inside TPC headquarters. After investigating the data on the scene, Team Nori discovered a significant fact. Everyone, please note that Kito's original body is actually about the same size as ours. In order to fight Tiga head-on, he actually made himself the same size as Tiga. It's really a one-on-one fight. Xingqian was surprised, then he reacted and said, then let's go rescue the captain first. By the way, where is the captain? I didn't see it. What? Hurry, get off the plane and look for him. Yes. On the other side, Yak had already settled Irumake and was listening to the information in PDI. He chuckled. One-on-one combat is a really novel way to play. I walked out of the house and looked at the two life forms fighting in a ball not far away. Such an interesting scene, how can I be missing? Boss, let's continue to receive customers. At this time, Daegye was also in a mess. The guy in front of him was almost the same as him in terms of size, speed, and strength, and the fight was fierce. Especially the claw of Kiriel of the Key People, which is harder than any material on Earth. A slight scratch on it will cause a string of sparks. Even Tiga only dared to block his wrist, trying his best not to be scratched by the claws. Hey, young human, are you in a tough fight again? Playful laughter came from all directions. For a moment Tiga and Kito stopped at the same time, stepped back a few steps and looked around vigilantly. To be honest, watching you two duel, I'm itching to do it too. A blue light flashed, and a huge monster with scorching energy appeared on the battlefield. Chiron, hey? I heard you want to duel with me. Come on, let's practice. Chapter 16. Godzilla. It really appeared, record it quickly. The team members who are looking for Megami Iruma are assigned to record Godzilla's every move. As expected, you showed up, you despicable monster. The key man said viciously, today I will catch you all in one fell swoop. Haha, I had a good fight with a novice driver. I hope your strength is as tough as your words. Yake did not hide his contempt. Human body, please move aside. I will deal with it within 2 minutes. The rest of the time is yours. Arrogant. The key man was furious and stomped his feet in the air to attack Yak. Even though the key man has grown to a gigantic size, he is still only 52 meters tall. Godzilla is 80 meters tall. Even if he jumps up, he can only barely reach the level of being at eye level with Arc. While in mid-air, the basic people have no way to change their own trajectory. Yak whipped his tail violently, with a force comparable to that of Red King's punch, hitting Kijin hard in the chest. Why do I call you aliens rats? Boom! Click! The powerful blow directly sent the Gyron flying, crashing into a nearby building, and he couldn't recover for a long time. Ignorance, arrogance, weakness, and self-confidence. Yak approached quickly, pinched the face of the guy with one hand, and smashed towards the surrounding buildings madly. The nearby buildings suffered a lot and were turned into ruins under the ravages of Yak. Come, tell me, did the Great Key tell you that this is what will happen if you anger me? Yak looked at the dying Ki-Ren with a cold expression and a hint of mockery, and stepped on Ki-Ren. What? The Kijin howled in pain. Stand up. Yake said coldly. The key man struggled and said, the key man will not let you go, you blasphemer. Yake turned a deaf ear to the trash talk that had no deterrent effect, and instead stepped hard on Ji-Ren's chest again. Stand up. You. Boom. Stand up. Yake looked down at the key people who were about to be beaten to death and said, they are just sewer rats hiding in the ground. In my eyes, they are not even as good as weeds on the roadside. Kito was left with only one breath left. Yak took out his camera and pointed it at the ground. Come on, tell me, eggplant. Inclusion successful. Photo, alien mouse. Main characters, Kurioid. Travel points, 350. Due to your amazing performance, dear host, would you please share this photo? A system that hasn't done anything for half a year actually spoke today. Yake raised his eyebrows slightly and nodded, yes. He wanted to see what effect this would have if it were to spread. The photo alien mouse will spread and resound throughout every corner of the universe, and your notoriety will be known to everyone. Kurioid favorability max, fight to the death. Kingdom of Light favorability plus 10, somewhat heard of. Space monster favor ability plus 50, fear. You are given the title racial enemy. Yak was amused. Wow, this damn system actually has a title. He didn't care and just accepted it. Title, racial enemy. Effect, when you attack a race other than yourself, the attack increases plus 50%, when you launch a war of genocide against an entire race, the attack increases plus 100%, when you attack the Kurioids, the attack increases plus 200%. Note, racial enemy? Oh, my dear friend, you are the real hero. Special attack. Yak's eyes lit up immediately, and I knew that this damn system had hidden something good. The dog system knows everything except about traveling, but you have to discover everything else on your own. Tisk, what a dog. In a good mood, Yak ignored the Chiron lying on the ground like a dead dog, and shot a shot of energy to help him recover his strength. Although compared to Yak, the G people are just rookies, but for the current Daegu, the G people are rare and high-quality sandbags. Destroy Ultraman? Not feasible, you will be beaten up by the crowd. Cultivate Ultraman? You will get help from the Ultra Mafia, and maybe even get some equipment. You can tell at a glance which one is more cost-effective. Seeing that 2 minutes were up, Yak glanced at Ultraman Tiga. A simple glance made the driver Daegu shudder. Terror. Cold-blooded. Powerful. Every cell in his body was reminding him that he was a human being and how terrifying the monster in front of him was. Yak also noticed something, and sure enough, the blow from last time was still not gone. Steel is not made in a day, and the same goes for Ultraman. True light always requires countless experiences. Aik said to Daegu, the reason why Ultraman is light does not depend on strength, but comes from the heart. Human body, you have 3 minutes. Having said that, he disappeared. Only the Kito lying on the ground and the bewildered Daegu were left. Instantly, Kito, who had recovered his strength, stood up again, muttering to himself, why don't you kill me? Apparently, as a cosmic being, Key-man received a message from his race, and the fact that he was being trampled underfoot was spread. It's all your fault. You guys deserve to die. In an instant, the yellow crystal on the Key-man's head turned red, and all his anger towards Yak was transferred to Daegu in front of him. The Key-man pounced forward like a mad beast, and his 2 sharp claws hit Ultraman Tiga frantically. The sudden crazy move scared Daegu, and he couldn't dodge in time and had to eat several claws. But Daegu soon came to his senses and realized that as a member of the victory team, he still had the necessary combat qualities. The two are intertwined, with you coming and going. Because of Jack's intervention at the beginning, Ki-jin was now a little weak, and Daegu soon seized the opportunity and threw him out with an over-the-shoulder throw. Kito was thrown to the ground hard, and the genuine pain actually made him regain a little composure. He stood up with a somersault, raised his hand and released the Hellfire Bomb, which hit Ultraman Tiga's chest with a high-temperature flame. Snapped. Tiga took several steps back, covering his injured chest, and the timer flashed red. 5 minutes are almost up. Standing in front of a tall building not far away, Jack stroked his beardless chin, thinking secretly. Ark, who has already left the battlefield, cannot go back in the form of Godzilla. This will not only lower his own status, but also make Daegu feel frustrated. Suddenly, Yak took out the belt from the system space. Wear a belt. Transformation. Arc 1. Singuries. Destruction. Ruin. Despair. Destruction. Conclusion 1. The only conclusion. Countless thoughts representing the darkest evil emerged and poured into Jack's mind. Destroy it. Kill it. The deep whispers are like maggots attached to the bones, like tentacles luring people into the abyss. Noisy. Yak snorted coldly, tools are just tools, you still want to be the boss. The powerful mental force directly shook off the malice. On a tall building, a Kamen Rider Arc 1, who does not belong to this world, appears. That's pretty good power. Yak stretched his body and found that he and this knight's belt were extremely compatible. Looking at Tiga who was fighting hard in the distance, Ark lightly tapped his belt. Malicious. Fear. Anger. Hate. Despair. Struggle. Killing intent. Destruction. Extinction. Destruction. Perfect conclusion. Learning end. All learned. Ark released intense malicious energy from his entire body, concentrating it within himself. He leaped into the air and delivered a devastating flying kick to the Kijin at a speed that was imperceptible to the naked eye. Coax. In an instant, the momentum of the people who originally had the advantage was lost. That's almost it. Yake smiled slightly, cancelled his transformation and turned away. Chapter 17. In a hidden alley somewhere, Akuma Hui woke up slowly. Where am I? Captain of the Intermediate, you finally woke up. Yak, who was standing aside and paying close attention to the battle, said with a smile, fortunately, Ultraman Tiga blocked that mental wave, otherwise you would not just be unconscious. Tiga, Ultraman. Iruma Hui recalled what happened just now, sighed sincerely and said gratefully, thanks to the giant, but I also want to thank you Captain Ark. If it weren't for you, I would have died in the flames long ago. Yake did not respond, but pointed at the battle not far away that was about to end, and said with relief, look, Ultraman Tiga is about to win again. He has grown again. Not far away, Tiga turned into an aerial form and used a freezing ray, successfully freezing the already exhausted Kaijin. The last Zapirio ray ends the battle. Growth? You mean? Irumake was a little confused for a moment. What did Ultraman Tiga need to grow? Axe thought for a moment and explained, nonsense, the original light has gone, and the current giant is a newborn light. He is still very weak and needs careful care. New light. Iruma Hui nodded, not quite understanding. Just treat it as the original research result of Yak. It's impossible that Ark, a human, is acting as a guide for Tiga and training giants. Captain! Captain! Voices calling out came from outside the alley. It's the other members of the victory team. Everyone, we are here. Yake waved his hand. The team members hurried forward to ask about their well-being. Lina and Zinken helped Izumi Hui up and said, Captain, are you okay? No, even though I was unconscious for so long that I am a little exhausted. Then, Irumake explained what had happened before. You are all here, but what about Daegyu? Didn't Daegyu go to evacuate the people? Lina asked a very concerned question. Where did Daegyu go? Hey, I'm here. Daegyu suddenly appeared on the street, waving his hand and walking towards the crowd. Daegyu! Lina exclaimed, let go of the hand that was supporting the captain of the intermediate team, and rushed forward to check if Daegyu was injured. Under everyone's strange gazes, Lina blushed and said, I'm just concerned about my teammates' health. We understand, we understand. In front of the bakery. It was already midnight, but the lights on the second floor were still on, and it was obvious that someone was waiting for him. Yeah. I pushed open the door and heard a series of footsteps. Asuna staggered down the stairs. Her hair was a little messy and it seemed that she was woken up. Yake asked, Sister Yuina, why did you come down? You said you would be back late, so I left the lights on and waited for you in case you couldn't find the way. I didn't expect that I would fall asleep by accident. Asuna adjusted her hair sheepishly, I left some food for you. You just got off work and haven't eaten yet, right? Wash your hands and I'll prepare it for you. Having said that, he got busy. A bowl of hot miso soup, 2 plates of home-cooked side dishes, and a bowl of rice. This is tonight's dinner. It's not very luxurious, but Jack eats it with great peace of mind. He has seldom had such meals since his parents passed away. Why does Yake stay here? Because this place feels like home. Under the warm light, the two sat face to face, and Yake ate his meal with big mouthfuls. Asuna Asu supported her head with her hands, her eyes full of Yak, and she smiled gently from time to time. Mr. Yak, the way he eats is exactly the same as when I was a child. By the way, Mr. Yak, where are you from? It's a very far place. It's like a fantasy to go back. Yake looked up and said seriously, actually, Sister Yukina, you can just call me Yake. The words Mr. Jia are too unfamiliar. Then. Yake, is the food I cooked delicious? Ahoy! After dinner, Yak lay on the bed, but his mind was already immersed in the monster capsule. The monster capsule given by the system is not just a blank space, but a whole small world. The capsule will automatically generate a suitable environment based on the included monsters. For example, the capsules of Gakuma. After Yak went in, what came into view were the rocky peaks one after another, and Gakuma was lying on the rocks, sleeping soundly. Wake up! Wake up! Yak kicked the sharp corner of Gakuma with his foot. Gakuma also smelled the scent of a stranger, and the alertness he had gained from years of being in the wild made him quickly stand up and be on guard, but what he saw was a tiny human. Humans, bad. Gakuma's IQ is not very high, about the same as that of a 4 or 5-year-old child, and he can only say a few simple words. Yake frowned, his eyes turning blue. I let you rest for a few days, have you forgotten who I am? The momentum that bursts out is like the cold wind blowing in the valley. Gakuma shuddered, recalling the horrific one-sided beating. He quickly lowered his head to Yake's feet to show his submission, and carefully observed the human in front of him. Master! Master! Yake restrained his breath and put his foot on Gakuma's head. Yet. Query the monster's information immediately. Pet, rock monster Gakuma. Race, monster. Abilities, petrification ray, underground movement, underground radar angle, back ray. Growth value, 65%. Note, when the growth value reaches 100%, you can add materials for fusion and sublimation. Okay? New entry? Yake asked, what is fusion sublimation, and what are the materials? Dear Master, fusion sublimation can be simply summarized as evolution, and the materials can be stones, plants, machines, and even monsters. Then am I? Yes, you can also fuse and sublimate. Yake unfolded his information and saw that there was indeed an extra line of words. Name, Yake. Growth value, 23%. Dog system. You really have hidden something good. Yake suppressed his dissatisfaction and took out his camera to point it at Gakuma. Come on, Gakuma, say brinjal. Eggplant. Click. Photo, a monster's part-time job. Main character, Gakuma. Travel points, 200 points. Looking at the 730 points displayed on the interface, I left the capsule with satisfaction. The next morning, Yake stretched and lazily got up to wash up. Drop drop drop. The PDI communicator on the table rang. When I answered the phone, it was team member Yerui calling. Captain Yake, where are you now? Something big has happened. Hearing the anxious tone, Yake said calmly, I'm on a field trip, don't worry, talk slowly, after all, it's not the first or second time that something bad has happened, you'll get used to it. The Yerui team member on the opposite side was silent for a while and then said, it's Dagu's side. Chapter 18. High in the sky, Dagu and Zinken were patrolling in the Fiian. Team Newtown, is the whereabouts of Gypta number 3 still unknown? Yes, we have been out of touch for 2 months since we went to explore Jupiter. Shinjo sighed. His teacher, Dr. Esaki, was one of the 3 astronauts. Being an astronaut is really a dangerous job. Dagu sighed. Drop drop drop. Suddenly, a small red dot appeared on the originally calm radar, and it was diving at an extremely high speed. What is this? Dagu quickly connected to the headquarters. This is Victory Swallow number 1, headquarters please answer. Soon, there was news. This is the headquarters. Captain, I'm Dagu. I have discovered an unidentified flying object here. It is now at an altitude of 20,000 meters and is descending at a speed of Mach 4. It is too large to be called an airliner. Irumahue frowned. Where is the predicted arrival location? If such a huge object landed in a densely populated town, the casualties would be considerable. Dagu quickly analyzed it and said, based on this direction, it may land near Shikashima Beach. Inside the headquarters, Lena seemed to have thought of something. I remember there seemed to be facilities of the Space Development Bureau there. Horii also added, yes, this is a high-purity energy reserve base established to develop interstellar launch vehicles in the next century. At this moment, above the reserve base, a huge object was falling rapidly and landing in the shallow sea nearby. The surging waves swept across the entire coast like an artificial tsunami. The surging waves overturned the vehicles on the road, the huge impact made the earth tremble, and the weak humans were on the verge of collapse. Inside the base, the director pointed to a towering object in the distance and asked, what is that? Captain, that's a monster, run. For a moment, all the staff rushed out like ants on a hot pan. A monster, an extremely huge creature. They possess powers that are beyond the reach of humans, and are extremely brutal, murderous, and destructive. This sense of oppression that originates from the root of life is an unshakable sense of dominance in the food chain. The composite monster Ligadaran appears. Ligardran's whole body is wrapped in solid metal. His two arms are like huge sickles, and the fine muscles like body tissue are exposed at the joints. There are no eyes in his head, but instead a huge luminous body. Dagu arrived at the scene in the victory swallow and flew around the monster in an attempt to attract its attention. But Lyardan just glanced at it and ignored the little insect flying around. As if with some purpose, he crushed the houses with one foot, confirmed that there was nothing he wanted, and then turned around and started to demolish another one. Fortunately, Victory Swallow 2 from the headquarters also came to support. On the Fian 2, Vice Captain Zhong Fang said, "Listen carefully, we will go around to the front of this guy and attack him at the same time. We must stop him from continuing to destroy." Hori, understood. Dagu, understood. Victory Swallow number 1 and number 2 flew side by side, facing Lyardan head-on, and pulled the trigger at the same time to fire lasers. The monster's huge body made it almost impossible to dodge and it took several bullets. The attack exploded on Lyardan's body, creating brilliant sparks, but when the smoke cleared, it was found that it had not caused any damage. It seems very powerful, but in fact it is just like scraping. Inside the Far East headquarters, Yak calmly drank his tea, watching the fierce battle on the big screen and pointing his finger, "Captain Zhujian, take a look at the weapons and equipment on the Fian. They didn't even scratch the monster's skin. Do you think those people in the equipment department are just eating their salaries for nothing? This is impossible." Iruma Hui's face was solemn. She was now somewhat suspicious of those guys in the equipment department. After all, this was not the first or second time that this had happened. "I can't even scratch the monster's skin, so I might as well just carry the RPG." To this end, Yake suggested, "Wait for me to apply for a batch of funds from Director Sawai to develop new equipment. Oh, by the way, can you lend me Dagu too?" "Dagu, why?" "Let him help me write the application report." Yak took a sip of tea with a smile. Iruma Hui nodded helplessly. The man in front of her looked very lazy, and in fact he was indeed very lazy. But Dagu and Captain Yak have a very good relationship. They eat and chat together, which makes Lena jealous. Having said that, Yak's business capabilities are extremely strong, and Akuma Hui can guarantee that if Yak really gets moving, his efficiency will be comparable to that of an entire victory team. But, he is really lazy. "Captain, look at that monster." Yak seemed to have discovered something interesting. His sixth sense from monsters detected something unusual in Lyardan. Yak felt that Lyardan was more like a man-made monster. The artificial things here are not made by humans, but by aliens. Akuma Hui looked over and saw that the monster was absorbing energy. Two flying swallows circled back and forth above the reserve base, firing lasers at the monster one after another, but each time it was of no use except for causing Lyardan to pause for 1 or 2 seconds. Hori exclaimed, "It's just like some kind of machine, following the given instructions and working non-stop." Finally, Lyardan found a building that stored energy in the center of the base. He roughly wiped off the outer wall to reveal the storage tanks inside. Using 2 sickle-like arms, he plunged into it and madly absorbed energy. In just 3 seconds, a whole tank of energy was absorbed by Lyardan. Upon seeing this, the director of the storage base immediately ordered, "Immediately activate the DCS defense control system and be sure to protect the energy storage tank." Yes. Immediately, the signal receiver devices surrounding the base began to operate rapidly. High-voltage electric currents formed a dense electric grid that surrounded the entire reserve base, and Lyardan was trapped firmly. After absorbing a can of energy, the monster also noticed something was wrong, and the luminous organ on its head kept flashing detailed data. After the analysis was completed, the flash-emitting organ suddenly burst out with a strong stream of information, and in just a moment, the DCS defense system computer malfunctioned. After solving the problem, Lyardan continued to absorb energy. "Damn monster!" Dagu cursed inwardly. Hello, this is the Far East headquarters. I'm the captain of the equipment support team, Yak. Before we set off, I have already loaded a new missile system on the Fian 2. You can give it a try. It might work wonders." Everyone on the Fian received the gift of family affection from Captain Yak at the same time. On the Haiyan 2, Vice Captain Zhong Fang said, "Follow Captain Yak's instructions and activate the missile system." "Yes." Lena, who was the shooter, nodded in response. The missile bay door at the bottom of Fian 2 opened, and 2 missiles with nuclear energy logos were aimed at Lyardan. Emission. Chapter 19. Coax. The two missiles were like awakened monster pattern birds, making hissing roars. Even though it was free from the fixed frame, the airflow from the fuel still caused Fan 2 to shake violently for a while. What? Lena, who pulled the trigger, was startled by the sudden shaking. What happened just now? The missile broke through the sound barrier, leaving behind a trail of afterimages. Boom! The missile exploded, and there was fire. No. That was not fire. That's the sun. The scorching sun is blooming. What on earth did Captain Yak put on that? Why is it so blinding? He wouldn't have put his entire arsenal into one missile. Inside the Fan, everyone screamed and closed their eyes. It was too dazzling. At the Far East headquarters, an unknown slacker said, "I just compressed a little bit of energy. Although it is powerful, it is quite clean and harmless." To sum it up in 3 words, tough, durable, and hot-tempered. The huge explosion knocked Lyardan to the ground. His chest was charred and a trace of electricity was leaking, just like a computer short-circuit. Lyardan struggled to get up, and as if receiving an order, the jet system on his back started up. The entire monster took off on the spot and disappeared into the air. Lena said blankly, "It's like a rocket." Dagu's focus was obviously different. It can still take off after being blown up like this. What a terrifying monster. Everyone go down and ask if there are any casualties. An order came from headquarters. Understand. 2 Fan planes landed one after another, and Deputy Captain Zhongfang led everyone to meet the director of the reserve base. The director pointed at the huge machine in front of him and said, "Because of interference from external commands, the entire DCS system has stopped functioning." Vice Captain Zhongfang said puzzledly, "But doesn't the defense system use the latest technology? How could it be interfered with by outsiders? By the way, if it was the person who created the DCS, he would be able to bypass the defense system and enter easily." Horii put forward his own opinion. "This." The director looked embarrassed and said, "The one who created the defense system was Dr. Izaki, who was riding in Jeep 3. What?" In the hospital ward, a woman in a spacesuit held the hand of an old man on the bed, her eyes full of reluctance. Under the setting sun, on an open grassland, a man in a spacesuit was playing football with a child. When someone approached him, he disappeared in the afterglow of the sunset. Just now, the Space Development Bureau's D department called and gave me a strange report. This is what I have in my hand. Tell me what you think about it. Sitting in his seat, Staff Officer Nanyuan looked at the woman in front of him. Irimake looked at the report in his hand and frowned. "This is impossible. Didn't the astronauts of the Jeep 3 disappear? How could they suddenly appear next to their families? Could this be related to the DCS incident? I don't know the details, but I hope you can keep it a secret, okay?" Clear. Inside the operations department hall, everyone looked at each other and at Xin Cheng in the middle, who had a grim expression on his face. Seeing the captain coming, Xingqian hurried forward and asked, "Captain, I heard that the Space Development Bureau is looking for the family of Jeep number 3 to inquire about the situation. Is this true?" Akuma Hui turned her head slightly and looked at Xingqian with some embarrassment. "Is that monster closely related to Jeep No 3? Xingqian continued to ask. Irimake said, "The matter of Jeep to 3 falls under the jurisdiction of the Space Development Agency. Then I'll go ask them now." With that, Xingqian walked out. "Wait." Irimahue quickly stopped Shinjo, "They have their way, and we have our own way. We must not go beyond the scope to interfere with the other party's mission. This is the rule." The stalemate was very depressing, and only Yak remained calm while drinking his tea. Was Irimake wrong? No. Was Shinjo Tetsuo wrong? No. So who is wrong? Soon, Xingqian was defeated and left without looking back. "I'll go and comfort him." Jack stood up and walked out slowly. In the corridor, Xingqian leaned on the handrail, staring blankly into the distance. "What's wrong? You're not usually like this. If you have any problems, you can tell me." Yake stepped forward and stood beside him. Xingqian looked dejected. "Captain Yake, several of my friends died in accidents, and that's why I'm even angrier. They don't understand how worried their families are. Captain Yak, I feel like I'm losing something beautiful. Kindness, gentleness, and thoughtfulness, these beautiful qualities that belong to our human nature, seem to be slowly fading. Members of the new town team, you are wrong. Good things never leave us." Yak looked at the busy crowd not far away and said, they are just covered up by the rapidly progressing times and the turbulent interpersonal relationships. Everyone is tired of love, but everyone wants to be loved. Very contradictory, isn't it? Yake sighed and said, try to change everything around you, and pass on your qualities to future generations. After being comforted, Xingqian finally recovered and followed Yak to a laboratory. Inside the laboratory, the other members of the victory team have already arrived, including Staff Officer Nanyuan and the Director of the Scientific Research Institute, Reiko Kashiwamura. On the table, there is a huge metal-like object, but it is black. What the hell is this? Jack raised his eyebrows. Before anyone else could say anything, the excited Daigu rushed over and explained, these are fragments that fell from the monster, thanks to Captain Yak's missile. Feeling Lena's resentful gaze, Jack looked as if he had suddenly realized something. Being so close to her, he finally knew why he felt something was wrong. There is a smell on Lyardan that is a mixture of organic and inorganic life forms in the planet itself. It can even fuse with metal and transform into a monster. This made Yak think of another monster, the cosmic sphere Sphia. But it's not time for Dinah to appear yet. What's going on? Director Kashiwamura pointed at the fragments and said, we found from the analysis of the monster fragments that they contain the shell components of the Jeep-3 collective. Although there are some metaphors, one can still hear that the so-called Jeep-3 spacecraft has been assimilated by the monster. Is there no hope of survival? Asked Irumake. Chief Kashiwamura shook his head, I can't make a conclusion. I found it. I was wondering how someone as smart as Dr. Yamazaki could not have left any clues. Team member Nori, who was sitting in front of the computer, was delighted. I found it in Dr. Izaki's computer through his laboratory. I'm transferring it to the screen now. Chapter 20. I hope someone can receive this message I sent. I want to tell you what happened. On the screen, Dr. Yamazaki's appearance seemed to be disturbed by some force, and it kept distorting and flashing. When the Jeep-3, which the three of us were riding on, arrived at Jupiter's orbit as planned, that thing appeared. We didn't know what it was, but we were sure that the monster was attracted by the energy of the spacecraft. We fought hard but still couldn't stop it. It was an emotionless, unknown energy body. The three of us were integrated into it along with the spacecraft. The monster was created by it when it detected fear. We are imprisoned within its body and can hardly feel whether we belong to the human race. In the end, I hope that the tragedy of our destruction of the entire Earth will not happen. If that day ever comes, please, kill us. The message stopped abruptly at this point. Captain Akuma looked at Chief Kashiwamura and said, there is really no way to help them return to human form. Live as a human being, die as a human being. Now it has become a luxury. Director Kashiwamura lowered his head and said nothing. According to today's technology, this is a fantasy that is impossible to achieve. I have a question. After a long silence, Dagu asked, since they have been controlled by the monster, how could they still appear in front of their family? Yes, monsters are cold-blooded and heartless species, they will not show mercy to humans. Everyone's eyes turned to a man who was slacking off. Yak is the person who has done the most in-depth research on monsters on the scene. At this time, Jack was bending over, touching the monster fragments with interest. This thing was really too strange. It looks scary, but it contains pure energy. Ligatoran's fundamental purpose of destroying everything is to absorb enough energy, but this monster has no self-awareness, its actions are based on preset instructions mixed with the mental will of the three astronauts. As for why, Jack guessed that this was like an ant nest, with soldier ants foraging outside and continuously supplying nutrients to the queen ant. So even if the monster absorbs enough energy to leave, it will return one day to continue foraging. In other words, the Earth has been targeted as a food collection point. Captain Ark. Lena called out softly. Oh. After coming to his senses, Ake said, it's very simple. Ligadaran has no emotions, but humans do. The emotion of missing family is too strong, and monsters can't understand it. But according to the instructions, this emotion did not seem to cause any harm to it, so Ligadaran did not stop it and was even willing to provide help. This is due to one point. Yake paused, they are both monsters and humans. The scene was dead silent again, and everyone had a worried look on their face. Yes, it is a monster, but it has human attributes. Drop drop drop. The phone suddenly rang, and at the same time, Staff Officer Namwan also received instructions from the top. Vice Captain Munikata said, Captain, a monster has appeared, heading towards the Tsurusaki power station. Staff Officer Nanyuan's face was solemn. The headquarters has issued a formal order to destroy the monster. For the safety of all mankind, please. I understand. Irumake nodded. As a combat team, obeying orders is our duty. Advisor. Xin Cheng slammed the table and stood up. Does our victory team want to fight them? Facing the doubts, Staff Officer Nanyuan said firmly, our battle targets are the terrifying space monsters that threaten the peace of the Earth. I understand your feelings and your feelings for Dr. Yamazaki. But now they have become monsters, and for the safety of all mankind, we must make sacrifices. The victorious team is off. Understand. At the command, Unit 1, piloted by Daigu and Shinjo, and Unit 2, piloted by Ark, Lina, and Horii, left the headquarters, with Ark's support team following along the way. As for Captain Zhujian and Deputy Captain Zhong Feng, they stayed at the headquarters to command remotely. In the communication system, Ark quickly entered combat mode. The Tsurusaki power station is responsible for supplying 60% of the electricity in the entire Kanto region. Once it is destroyed, the entire city will be paralyzed. The monster must be eliminated. Obviously, the last sentence was addressed to the Zinken team members. Inside Unit 1, Daegu hesitated to speak. Members of the new town team. Say no more. Zinken acted very calm, but the uncontrollable sadness in his eyes betrayed him. As a member of the victory team, I must complete my mission. He needs to kill his teacher with his own hands. At the Tsurusaki power station, the long-lost Rigadaran reappears. The monster's huge body was even taller than the electric tower, and its sickle-like arms easily cut through the cables. The high-voltage electricity touched Lyardan's arm, making a sizzling sound, and the smoke that came out carried a smell of burnt protein. Even so, it still didn't stop the monster. Lyardan roared and lifted up house after house. His sickle arm was like a demolition machine that never stopped. With just a slight touch, the cement and steel bars were torn apart like paper. We found the monster, 10 kilometers away from the power station, said the driver Horii. Yak opened the communication network in the helmet. Everyone, attack the monster before it reaches the discovery station. This time, I installed an improved laser weapon on the Fiian, which should be able to break the monster's metal shell. Understand. Understand. The two flying swallows flew around the monster, attracted Lyardan's attention, and attacked it from the front at the same time. Emission. Emission. The laser weapon carried by the Fiian launched an attack. Compared with the previous green laser, the laser now appears red. The laser exploded on Lyardan's body, and the scorching heat burned up more smoke, 3 times as much as the high-voltage electricity he had just come into contact with. You can imagine how high the temperature contained in it is. Hiss! Lyardan roared in pain. Great! Horii shouted excitedly, Captain Yak is indeed a genius. With just a small improvement, he made the original weapon so powerful. He is worthy of being a top talent from the Chinese branch. Yak said calmly, you can say the flattery when you get back. Now let's deal with the monster in front of us first. Understand. Lyardan has now turned into a monster, and its violent nature drives it to kill the small bugs flying around in front of it, but the instructions in its brain show that bugs are not worth stopping for and energy is the first need. Daegu, use missiles to scare it. Yes. The loading bay of Fiian 1 launched 2 special-made Yak missiles. The missile hit Lyardan, causing him to stagger. Under continuous attack, Lyardan closed his sickle hands and released a powerful destructive beam, which hit the engine of Fiian No. 1. Daegu and Zinken are in danger. Chapter 21. Daegu. Fiian No. 1 was hit, and Lina's heart was in her throat. Don't be distracted. Attack the monster immediately to attract its attention. Don't let it continue to attack Unit 1. Yak's voice was still calm and indifferent. Understand. Anxious Lina operated her weapon, aiming lasers at the monster's vital points. Snapped. 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 Under such a fierce attack, Lyardan's attention was attracted and he roared to shoot down Fiian No. 2. The monster released a destructive beam, and the blue beam brushed past the outer shell of Unit 2. Fortunately, Horii's driving skills were pretty good, otherwise he would have followed in the footsteps of Unit 1. Inside Fiian No. 1, Dagyu pulled the operating lever with all his strength to prevent the fighter's head from hitting the ground first and causing it to fall head first. Puff! Fortunately, Dagyu acted in time, and Fei in number 1 landed first with its bottom, and after knocking down countless trees, it finally stopped. Dagyu shook his dizzy head and turned to look at the CO pilot's seat. Team member Zinken had already fainted. Members of the New City team, members of the New City team, wake up! I called out twice, but it didn't work at all. Dagyu climbed up with great effort, opened the hatch, carried Zinken out, and placed him in an open space not far away. Looking at Fei in number 2 fighting a monster in the distance, his hand involuntarily reached for the magic stick on his chest. My teammates need me. Dagyu took out the Aoyama rod and said, please, Tiga. On the Fei in 2, Jack saw a warm light rising from the ground, a light that ordinary humans could not see. Ultraman Tiga turned in the air and stood in front of Lyardan. Lyardan stood still, and the luminous organ on his head quickly analyzed the situation. After confirming the threat posed by the giant, he launched an attack without hesitation. The giant is the number 1 threat that it absorbs energy from. Threat equals destruction. On the other side, Yak ordered Fei in 2 to make an emergency landing and leave the battlefield to the 2 behemoths. They went to bring out the New City team members who had fallen on the battlefield. Hello, hey, this is Equipment Support Captain Ark. Everyone, prepare for emergency artillery fire. Before the Titan launches its attack, remember not to accidentally injure Tiga. Remember, do not accidentally injure Tiga. Understand? Lyardan has an extremely hard shell. It is not known whether the support team's shells will be useful, but as long as they can cause some interference to the monster, Jack thinks they are useful. Coax! 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 Hundreds of missiles poured out, quickly engulfing the monster like a flaming iron curtain. In an instant, Lyardan's entire body was enveloped in flames. Due to the previous injuries, this round of secondary bombardment added new scars to Lyardan's chest. Stop the shelling, everyone retreat. Seeing that the attack was effective, Yak gave the order to run away without hesitation. As for why? In Yak's sight, the injured Lyardan had begun to accumulate energy in his head, preparing to attack the artillery position. At this time, Dagyu, who had been waiting for a long time, rushed forward and used a flying kick to forcibly block Lyardan's energy storage. But this only draws the hatred to oneself, and the damage to the monster will only make him take a few steps back. SHH. So hard. Inside Tiga's body, Dagyu felt pain in his hand. Lyardan knocked Dagyu over with one sickle, but fortunately Dagyu reacted quickly and rolled over to avoid the second sickle. Otherwise, Dagyu would not be able to bear the heavy blow. Fortunately, Lyardan's defense was at its maximum, but his agility was still a bit lacking. Dagyu also seized this weakness, grabbed the monster's triceratops-like head, and knee-kicked Lyardan's injured chest. Lyardan groaned, and the effect was remarkable. Lyardan, whose wounds were continuously attacked, finally went mad, and his commands were suppressed by the monster's bloodthirsty nature at this moment. Lyardan hooked Tiga's shoulders, lifted him up with great force, and threw Tiga out. Fortunately, Daigo, who was operating Tiga, had rich fighting experience. He could use the ground rolling to relieve the force and then half squat again to shoot a palm light arrow. This attack hit Lyardan's wound accurately again, but it did not stop the monster. Instead, it became more ferocious. The monsters dominated by their nature seem to be disorganized, but in fact they are more difficult to deal with than before. After Lyardan followed his heart and blew Tiga away, his sickle-like energy-absorbing claws immediately closed and released a destructive beam. Fortunately, Dagyu reacted and stood up to dodge. Seeing that this move failed, the rocket booster behind Lyardan started up and slammed into Tiga like a train. Dagyu didn't dare to confront him head-on. He tried to dodge but Lyardan kept chasing him. It's really difficult. Dagyu gritted his teeth, stood where he was, staring at the monster that was rushing towards him again. Just as the two were about to collide, Dagyu ducked, bent his body and rolled to avoid it. Instead, Lyardan crashed heavily into the hill, causing rocks and wood to fly everywhere. Good job! Tiga's operation made the victorious team members watching the game cheer again and again. Even Yak became interested. After several baptisms, Dagyu began to grow up and became much better than his previous immature appearance. Seeing the monster being defeated, Dagyu was not idle either. He crossed his arms on his forehead and turned into a red powerful type. Dagu pounced on the monster that was struggling to get up, rode on its back, concentrated all his muscle strength, and punched down with a series of powerful punches. The originally hard armor shell was cracked, revealing fine lines similar to muscle tissue inside. Lyardan also noticed that the giant on his back had become different. It was extremely powerful and actually destroyed his defense. In a hurry, without caring about the energy consumption, the rocket boosters were started at maximum power. A large amount of energy poured into the back and turned into thrust and spurted out. Dagu lost his balance and was rushed high into the air. Lyardan also seized the opportunity and the flash emitter on his head flashed suddenly. Tiga, who was high in the sky, was engulfed in the explosion. Boom! Finally it fell heavily to the ground. After suffering severe injuries, Tiga stood up and the timer on his chest began to flash red. I can't wait any longer. Dagu calculated the remaining time in his mind. He opened his arms and gathered the energy in his chest, forming it into a fireball, and fired a stream of dilachum light. The red high-temperature energy brushed past the monster's shoulder and flew out, and a small part of the energy hit and caused damage. But most of it was reflected. That monster is like an iron wall. Lena muttered to herself, unless we can break through from the inside. Lena's words seemed to wake Zinken up. Zinken quickly called the headquarters. Headquarters, this is Zinken. Please send all the photos and information of the astronauts' families to the computer on Jeepta No 3. At this moment, Dagu, who was already at the end of his strength, was passively defending and accepting Lyardan's repeated attacks. Just as Lyardan lifted up Tiga with his energy-absorbing claws and was about to execute him, something happened. The monster seemed to be restrained, and strange red electric currents flashed in every part of its body. That was the astronauts' consciousness awakening, and they were resisting the monster's control. Yak's eyes widened, even though he knew some of the plot. But when this scene actually happened, the incredibleness was still shocking. Please continue to survive as a human being. The eyes of the Zinken team members were moist, grab the monster's energy and defeat it from the inside. Inside Lyardan, the awakened human soul fought back vigorously. Even though their souls were weakened time and time again, their wills remained strong. This is incredible. Jack muttered to himself. Lyardan's energy-absorbing claw moved to the damaged area on his chest with difficulty, and a destructive ray of light flashed by. It's sizzling. Lyardan's core was shattered. 3 shining rays of light floated out from the monster's body and flew into the universe. At this moment, Jack couldn't help but take out his camera and take a picture. Photo: if your body is already burnt out, let your will lead you out. Character: the unyielding human soul. Travel points: 1000 points. Chapter 22. It's another beautiful morning. Well, it's not very beautiful. Ark, I'm about to stink to death. Mingri kicked open the door and grabbed Yake, who was still half asleep. Where does this damn stench come from? It's floating all over the street. Aren't you a member of the victory team? Go and investigate quickly. I don't know why, but when I woke up early in the morning, the whole city was shrouded in a stench. The smell was so strong that Mingri couldn't even eat breakfast. Girl, it's a bit too much for you to kick open a man's door like that. Yake gently sniffed the strands of hair lingering around his nose, staring at him with dead eyes. I am a normal man after all. I am full of vigor and vitality. Aren't you being a little disrespectful to me? As he was speaking, Mingri felt something blocking him in the quilt. Her little face suddenly turned red. What's in your quilt? Here, you can tell if you touch it. I'm not touching. Although you say no, your body is still honest. Tomorrow the boy reached into the cup with his little hand and found, hey, you wouldn't believe it, there really was a big thing hidden inside. When I took it out and looked at it, it was a huge golden bead. Mingri asked, what is this? I bought it as a souvenir after get off work. Jack lied calmly. This thing is actually the core of Lyardan's head. Jack took it down and condensed it before the monster cleaning department of TPC headquarters. Monster cores are good things, especially monsters like Lyardan that absorb energy. They can not only be used as backup hidden energy, but also as sublimation elements. Very valuable. Oh. Mingri boy looked at the core and couldn't take his eyes away. This expression made Jack's heart skip a beat. Damn it, the bead could not be saved. Ahem, this thing looks ordinary, but I'll still keep it for you. After saying that, he put it in his arms. The corner of Yak's mouth twitched, but he didn't say anything. It was just a small core. If the girl wanted it, she could give it to her. At worst, she could just kill the beast and get the pearl later. An easy batch. Mingri continued to talk about what happened just now. Oh, Yake, aren't you from the victory team? Can you check what's going on with this stench that's all over the city? I am the victory team, not the police department. Yake rolled his eyes. Besides, I'm just a small clerk. I can't control the big shots above me. At first glance, it made sense. Okay, then hurry up and get up and wash up. I'll be out. The girl held the beads in her hand and ran out happily, ready to show her new collection to her mother. It's terrible. Yake sighed, stood up, opened the window, and prepared to breathe some fresh air. But what hit you in the face was an extremely pungent stench, like the smell of fish and shrimp that have been rotting and fermenting for 100 days and then blown into your face. It's fucking stupid. As Godzilla, Ark's sense of smell was enhanced in all aspects, including his sense of smell. His nose with maximum sensitivity seemed to have been punched. Whose septic tank exploded? He had not taken it seriously before getting up, and was going to use his position to contact the police station to check it out. Now that I have experienced it myself, I realize that the police station cannot be relied upon and the victory team has to come. In a rage, Yak turned on the PDI communicator to call the monster cleanup team responsible for cleaning up the battlefield. Hello, this is the monster cleanup team, I am. Before he could finish his words, the irrational Ake yelled, I don't care who you are, why is the whole city filled with the stench of rotting monster corpses? Are all you people in the cleaning department good for nothings? I'll give you 1 hour to clean up the monsters' corpses. If you can't, I'll bring people to flatten your base with missiles. There was silence on the other end of the line, and then a middle-aged man's voice came over, Hello, who are you? Yak said coldly, Captain Yak of the equipment support team has 150 artillery pieces, 600 missiles, 2 victory swallows, and countless guns and ammunition. Tell me, what do you want? There was another silence on the other end of the phone. Hello, Captain Yak. As the captain of the cleanup team, we are deeply sorry for your anger, but the fact is that this has nothing to do with us. We have already cleaned up all the monster corpses last time. As for why the whole city stinks, please consult the headquarters. What do you think? It should be said that after the threat, the tone became better. The monster corpses have been cleaned up last time, so what is the situation now? Yak hung up the communicator, feeling somewhat confused. He couldn't have smelled it wrong, it was indeed the stench of a monster's corpse. Thump thump thump. Mingri came running over in a hurry, Yay! Yake, go watch the news. The news is being broadcast on TV. Now it's morning news. Late last night, the police received a report from a resident that a huge dead body of a creature was found near the coast of Kitagawa City, Shizuoka Prefecture. Let's broadcast the details on the scene. The scene changed, and near the coast, a female reporter was covering her mouth and nose with a handkerchief. Hello everyone, I am at the scene now. The Earth Peace United Organization TPC and the Victory Team members have come here to investigate. It has been quite some time since the monster died, and the corpse has already emitted an unbearable stench. Behind the female reporter, the figures of team members Shinjo and Horii flashed by. Next, there was an interview with residents, the general content of which was if a monster appeared and crushed the house you bought with a loan for 20 years, and a falling boulder smashed the car you bought with a loan for 10 years, what would you do? There's never a good day. After reading the news, Yak scratched his head. Ever since the appearance of Tiga, all kinds of monsters have emerged one after another, as if they had been injected with chicken blood. Daegu, you still have to work harder. Drop drop drop. When the PDI communicator rang, Yake knew it was time to go to work. The general mission is to prevent the ocean from being polluted by lifting the monster away and burning it, and let Yak go to the coast as the on-site commander to supervise the whole process. It's another hard job, Tisk, the salary must be increased. He called the equipment support team's car, said hello to Mingri, and went out. Near the coast. As soon as Yak arrived at the scene, the stench became more pronounced and he almost vomited his breakfast. Due to the stench from the monster's corpse, 63 people have been sent to the hospital for emergency treatment, 10 of whom are in a coma. On the other hand, the female reporter on the scene was still reporting, so dedicated. Taking over the command on the scene, Fei in number 2 and number 1, piloted by Lina and Daegu, also arrived on time. Monster Cleanup Plan begins. Chapter 23. In order to better complete the cleaning plan, all the weapons and equipment on the Fian 2 body were removed and replaced with a crane. Daegu pilots Unit 1 and provides assistance. Yak turned on the communication network and slowly commanded the Fian to hover above the monster at the predetermined position. I'm from the press. The commander of the victory team has an obligation to issue a statement and accept external supervision. Do you understand? Outside the cordon, reporters who had smelled something were arguing with TPC staff. Obviously, the people at TPC had seen this kind of thing many times, so they simply said that the intelligence department would issue a statement and ignored it. On the other hand, with his excellent hearing, Yak naturally knew what happened, but he didn't care. As for what the stopped reporters would write after returning, that was the Ministry of Foreign Affairs business. Now he just wanted to get rid of the huge corpse in front of him as soon as possible. It was too smelly. Yak said to the communication network, "Okay, let's get started." Clear. At the bottom of Fian 2, a semicircular crane started up, and 4 hooks pierced into the corresponding positions respectively. Inside the cabin, team member Lena gently pulled up the joystick. With the help of the boosters, Fian easily lifted the monster. Strangeness. Listening to Lena's question, Daegu said, "What's wrong? Why is the monster so much lighter? This is inconsistent with the pre-calculation." As they were talking, there was a scratching sound. The rope that had been tied in advance suddenly cut the monster's skin, and an indescribable object fell out of the corpse. Once again, the scene was overshadowed by this rich flavor. "Oh my god!" Yak, who was concentrating on directing, complained elegantly, "What a miserable life." Yak wished he could blow the monster away with just one breath. The sudden change caused the shaky hook to instantly detach from the body. Under the reaction force, Fian 2 climbed rapidly. Fortunately, Lena steadied the joystick and almost fell into the sea. The female reporter at the scene reported immediately, the towing operation failed. The victory team's towing operation failed. What? The female reporter looked back suddenly, suppressed her inner fear, and said tremblingly, "Strange, the monster is resurrected. The zombie monster Silizan has awakened." Zilizan's whole body was rotting, emitting a strange stench, and the fins on his back revealed bone spurs. "Oh my, 99%, a rare item." Yak's eyes lit up and he took out his camera and took a photo. Photo, moving monster corpse. Character, Zilizan. Points, 200. After putting away the photo, Yak said into the communicator, "All TPC personnel are to evacuate urgently. Ordinary combat personnel will be transferred to logistics. In addition, Lena will drive Unit 2 back to the base. Unit 1 and the support team will take over now. Understand?" "Yes, Captain Yak." Lena looked depressed and was obviously in a bad mood. "I had just learned the technology, but failed in the first traction mission. It would be a bad experience for anyone." The awakened Silizan did not attack the fleeing humans, but instead moved along the coast in a certain direction. Horii asked, "Captain, where is the monster going?" Yak pointed at the map on the table and pointed at the address of a gas company. "According to the direction it is moving, it should be a liquefied natural gas storage tank." Zinkan and Daegu deployed a formation to attack, a 1-1-2 formation, using missiles to attack. Also, the equipment support team should immediately deploy their artillery fire and aim at the middle and lower parts. Remember to aim carefully. Although all of Yak's support team were good shooters, a warning must be given. If they hit their own plane, it would be hilarious if the news got out. Understand? Understand. Upon receiving the order, 2 Victory Swallow 1s launched missiles at Silizan. Boom boom boom. At the same time, 13 cannons roared like thunder. "Captain, the equipment support team has finished shooting, with a 100% hit rate." In the headset, the team members sent a good news. "Well done." Yak nodded. "Captain, our missile was swallowed by the monster." Suddenly, bad news came to Daegu and the support team at the same time. At this moment, Yak finally remembered what Silizan was. Silizan has no life reactions, his abdomen can devour any energy, and his mouth can spit out poison gas. Because his body is in a high state of decay, a missile penetrating into it will be swallowed up like stepping into mud. The support team is retreating. The operations department's victory team is now fully in charge. Clear. The support team's artillery was of no use other than providing benefits to the monster, so Yak simply withdrew his men and used the mobility of the victory swallow to attract the monster. Yak drew the route the monster was moving towards and connected to the headquarters. Captain of the intermediary, can Unit 1 be equipped with a high-frequency generator? I'll ask Dr. Jiankan. Also, please prepare the aluminum jammer. Aluminum jammer, okay. After everything was arranged, Jack got in the car and was driven to the scene by Horii. Not far away, the reporter who tried to force his way in also noticed it and immediately ran over to interview him. Hey, wait, what are you going to do next? Horii turned his head to look at Yak, and seeing that the captain did not react, he stepped on the accelerator and drove away from the scene. The news on the car radio has been replaced by a talk show. Special report program, Resurrected Monsters Attack Shizuoka. The original program is suspended. We are broadcasting live from the scene of the monster's resurrection. We have invited Mr. Ueda, a commentator on monster disasters. The so-called monster critic said slowly, in short, this disaster can be said to be caused by the victory team's mistakes, which led to the escalation of the situation. From this point of view, it should be a man-made disaster. The host said, isn't the monster dead? How can humans be 100% sure about the monster? They actually said that the monster is dead. I think their conclusion is too hasty. Ueda Kose spoke in a decisive tone, as if he had expected this situation to happen. In the car, Horii was frozen, not daring to move. Captain Ye. Captain Yak, how about we turn off the radio? Different from his previous lazy look, Yak's face was now cold and he exuded a dangerous aura, which frightened Horii so much that he broke into a cold sweat. Monster critic. Yak sneered, you were a rubbish person before the monsters appeared, but now you're a critic just a few months after the monsters appeared. Team member Horii, if I kill Mr. Ueda, how will the headquarters punish me? Captain, calm down. Horii was so scared that he almost drove the car into the woods. Our duty as the victory team is to protect peace. Only gangsters would say things like you said. Yak thought for a while and nodded, that does make sense. Seeing that the captain had listened, Horii breathed a sigh of relief. Yak said into the communicator, hello, is this the support team? Aim your artillery at the temporary camp. 13 guns, 5 salvos, clean out the makeshift camp for me. Captain, there are outsiders in the camp. The head of the support team asked carefully. Don't worry about them. Fire immediately. If there are any injuries, just report them. I'll take care of it. Understand. Chapter 24. In the earphones, the sounds of artillery fire were mixed with human cries. It's like a pleasant symphony. Suddenly, Jack was in a good mood. On the contrary, Horii was like seeing some devil. Captain, I didn't hear anything, I know nothing. Yak shook his head helplessly. Look how scared the child was. The people on the victory team were just too rigid about the rules. This is what Captain Irimake brought, and I can only say that it has both good and bad sides. Captain Yak, this is Nori. We have detected high concentrations of pollutants in the monster footprints extracted by the support team. In fact, just one short sentence can explain that the most likely reason for the appearance of the monster is ocean pollution. Yak said, is the high-frequency generator ready? The new city plane is leaving now. Captain, in which area are the aluminum jammers distributed? Daegyu asked. In his mind, Yak simulated the area where the monster was heading, and determined the location coordinates in 1 second. The monster will soon reach the coordinates 206.190, operate in that area. Daegyu understands. Fei-in number 1 drove to the designated location. Daegyuji, start spreading aluminum chips to interfere with the transmitter. After the report was completed, the bottom cabin of Fei-in number 1 was opened, and pieces of shiny aluminum fell down, a large amount of which was scattered on the path that the monster had to pass. At this moment, Silizan also arrived at the designated target. His huge body exuded a rolling smell of decay, which made people unable to open their eyes. His swamp-like skin was immune to most attacks. Yakei suppressed the stench and said, how are the new city players? Captain, I've arrived and am ready to start. Okay, prepare the Zinken machine for irradiation, and use thermal electric attack after the surface is dry. Understand. After receiving the order, Zinken piloted Fei-in number 1 to hover over the monster and turned on the high-frequency generator. Under the sunlight, Silizan's body shrank rapidly, and heat electricity flowed through the monster's body. Hiss! Under the thermoelectric attack, the monster's body, which had finally solidified, began to feel pain. According to the power, the current situation can only last for 1 minute, but after calculation, in just 1 minute, the monster will solidify into an immobile stone statue. As the monster's body shrank, the missile that had originally hit the monster was exposed. Yak's eyes glared. Retreat, get away from the monster immediately. Fei-yin, climb, don't stop, climb immediately. 4 missiles plus 20 or 30 grenades slammed heavily on the ground and exploded in an instant. The huge explosion knocked down trees within a radius of 50 meters, and the artificially induced earthquake made the nearby hills shake. Yak grabbed Horii and hid behind the car to avoid being hit on the head by flying rocks. Fortunately, with the reminder, Zinken and Daegu reacted in time and dodged, otherwise they would have died on the spot. Surrounded by the high temperature, Zilizan rushed out quickly and patted off the flames that were still burning on his body. Captain, there is new news. Even if this monster is shattered, its cells can still regenerate. Team member Yerui from the headquarters brings new news. Yake looked at Zilizan, who was clapping his hands, and asked, Nori, what is the burning point of monster cells? This is probably around 1000 degrees. There is no way. The time available for testing is too short, and the answer that Nori can give is very vague. Irumahue said, Captain Ark, the monster will enter the city in an hour. We must find a way to stop it before then. In fact, the solution now is very simple. Yak only needs to go on the field himself and burn Zilizan to ashes in less than 3 minutes. As for why not go? Please, I have the photos, and this monster stinks so much, you might as well kill me instead of letting me go. Yak said, Captain Jujian, discuss with Baichuan Third Company and move the liquefied natural gas tank away from there, and then burn the monster and the storage tank together. As for the personnel, let Lina do it. Director Sawai, who was supervising the battle, said, is this really okay? The cells of the monster can regenerate. If you don't burn it, it will be resurrected. As for Lina, I believe in her level. Daegu also agreed, I will fly the plane. I believe Lina can do it. Inside the Kitagawa company, Yak and Horii led people to urgently dismantle the storage tanks. There will be a lot of compensation issues this time, Horii lamented. Yake chuckled and said, TPC's funding is more than you can imagine. Compensation is better than losing someone's life. That's true. TPC's execution ability is also excellent. It took only 5 minutes to dismantle the storage tank and wait for Fei-yin 2 to migrate. Captain, we're here. Dagu's voice sounded in the headset. With the assistance of the staff, the round storage tank was lifted by Fei-yin 2. The operation went smoothly, and Yak immediately asked Zinken to stop the monster from advancing. At this moment, it is already dusk. The huge sun emitted an orange-yellow glow. Under the dazzling sunlight, Zilizan raised his hands to cover his eyes. It hates light. Zinken drove the Fei-yin No. 1 and fired napalm bombs at the monster. The scorching heat frightened Zilizan so much that he fell to the ground. Fei-yin No. 2 also arrived on time with the liquefied natural gas tank. Captain, I'm Yerui. The combustion temperature of liquefied natural gas can completely burn the monster. Very good, Lina. Carefully move the LNG pipe to just above the monster. With the cooperation of Daegu and Lina, Zilizan's attention was successfully attracted. The monster, like a mummy, stared at the gradually descending gas tank. When it was about to arrive, Zilizan's neck suddenly stretched out strangely and bit the rope. Even though Daegu tried hard to stabilize the plane, the Fei-yin 2 was still on the verge of collapse due to the huge force of Zilizan. Seeing this, Yake showed no reluctance and said, cut the leash immediately. Understand. In order to deal with emergencies, Yak has not missed any function of blocking danger. Lina pressed the emergency button, the traction rope was immediately cut off, and Fei-yin No. 2 quickly escaped from the monster's control. Zilizan held the storage tank and looked at the departing Fei-yin with disappointment. Although it was only half pulled, the result was good. The liquefied natural gas tank was successfully taken by the monster. Team Shinjo, it's time for you to show your skills. Aim at what the monster is holding and hit him with the napalm bomb. Understand. Fei-yin No. 1 immediately opened fire and hit the target. In an instant, Zilizan was surrounded by flames and burned to ashes while wailing. Call. Yake exhaled, the world is finally fresh, even though there were some twists and turns, the result is good. Daegu. Captain, what's the matter? I remember I said that when you encounter a problem, you should actively solve it instead of sighing and complaining. When humans encounter a monster, they can also work hard to solve it, right? Yak saw that the light became brighter. Daegu, he is both light and human. Director Sawai said, Yak, I just received a complaint that the equipment support team used artillery to attack innocent people, causing the monster critic Mr. Ueda to lose both legs. Is this the case again? Defamation, baseless slander. Yak lazily lay in the chair. We were fighting a monster at the time, the situation was critical, and these outsiders ignored our advice and got injured. It was their own fault. If you don't believe me, ask Team Horii. Team member Horii. Director Sawai turned his gaze to Horii. Captain Ark. That's right. Horii replied with a stiff nod. Director Sawai sighed and said, I understand, but Ake, this won't happen again. Understood, I'll definitely do it next time. Chapter 25. Log record, strange clouds appeared in the sky. In order to investigate the truth, TPC formed a reconnaissance team with me as the center. Now we have arrived at the destination. I hope everything goes well. Dr. Mizuno typed today's log report on his personal computer so that he could go back and deliver the mission. In the Far East headquarters, Horii leaned on the railing and looked at the endless sea. It's great, I really want to go with them. As a student of Dr. Mizuno, Horii is naturally also a member of the investigation team, but for some reasons, he cannot go with them today. Diddy. Horii, please come to the command room immediately. Iramakei's voice came from the communicator. Understand. At the same time, Daegu and Yakei drove Fei in number 1 away from the headquarters. In the command room, Horii walked in cheerfully. Has the information about Yunchuan come out? I really envy Dr. Mizuno. In this way, his hypothesis may really be proven. But when he looked up, everyone on the victory team had a serious look on their faces, with their heads lowered and not daring to look at Horii. What happened? Horii's heart skipped a beat, and a bad premonition emerged in his head. According to the latest news, the reconnaissance plane has lost contact. What? Horii opened his mouth unconsciously and looked at Captain Izuma in disbelief, hoping that she was joking. Commander, based on the data from on-site detection, the cloud is moving very fast. If it continues like this, it will reach Japan. The abnormal fluctuations of the clouds were immediately noticed by Yerui. Vice Captain Zhong Feng called Fei in number 1, Captain Yake, what's the situation on your side? On the sea, Yake looked up and down through the window at the approaching cloud. I have seen the cloud. This cloud is a bit strange. It gradually turned into a cocoon shape. Yak's eyes turned a deep blue as he carefully observed the abnormality in front of him. When the obstructing clouds were cleared away, there were actually countless creatures eating each other. Every time they ate a creature of the same kind, they would grow a little bigger. The occasional lightning is caused by the friction between them. As the monster's body gradually solidified, its magnetic field became stronger and stronger. I'm in trouble again. Yak thought. In an instant, the cloud accelerated and swallowed Fei in number 1, and eventually turned into a solid entity, similar to a cocoon. Daegu had no time to react to the sudden change and was knocked unconscious by the lightning. Fortunately, he himself is the carrier of light, otherwise Yak would have to eat Daegyu's meal today. Where do you think your mother is? The CO pilot, Yak, was not panicked at all. Instead, he crossed his legs and made an international friendly gesture to the giant outside. Outside the cabin, a huge head was staring at him curiously, with blood stains on its fangs that were just a stone's throw away. It had not eaten enough yet. Gazot, I said you were looking at your mother. This time, Yak spoke it using his mental power, and when it reached the monster's ears, it naturally turned into a language it could understand. After saying this, he did not try to hide his own aura. Dangerous, not tasty. Gazot has the intelligence of a child and can only distinguish what is edible and what is not. Once Yak's brutal aura is released, it is like autumn wind sweeping away fallen leaves, scaring Gazot so much that he retreats again and again. TPC Far East Headquarters. Impossible. After hearing the bad news, Horii still couldn't believe it was true. With red eyes, he said, Dr. Mizuno is my mentor. He thinks that cloud may be the nest of the lightning man. They don't come down to the ground, they are strange creatures that can only live in the air. If it lives in the air, what does it rely on to survive? And what is the purpose of that nest? Zinken asked. How should I know? It's just that this cloud has never left the ionosphere. Horii was also a little confused. Beeping. The alarm locating Fei in number 1 sounded. Yerui said, oh no, the computer system of Team Daegu is seriously interfered with. Oh my god, that cocoon is actually absorbing radio waves. What? Daegu. The captain of the middle team urgently connected to Yak's communicator. Captain Yak, can you hear me? Sizzle, sizzle. There was no response from the headset. Vice Captain Zhong Fang said, Lina, Zinken, drive the Fei in 2 and set off immediately. According to the display, there is a strong magnetic field 1 kilometer around the cocoon, so don't get close rashly. Clear. Fei in 2 left the headquarters. In the cockpit, Lina looked worried. When I was in flight school, I heard from senior classmates that there are creatures in the sky that humans have never come into contact with. They even said there is a kind of people called Kremlin. I thought it was a joke they made to scare the freshmen. Zinken said, no matter where I am, I don't like creatures that are unknown to humans on Earth. Daegu should still be alive. Lina murmured to herself. Fei in number 2 arrived above the cocoon and began to follow and investigate. This is the command room. The cocoon's forward and descending speeds are increasing. Lina, Zinken, can you hear me? All the communications in front of him were cut off. Vice Captain Zhong Fang slammed the table hard, damn it. At this time, Fei in number 2 also noticed something was wrong. Captain, can you hear me? Zinken asked the headquarters, but there was no response. Damn it, the radio is cut off. Lina, be careful, that guy has bad intentions, just shoot it down. No, Daegu is still inside. Lina refused without any hesitation. At the Far East headquarters, 4 team members disappeared in succession, including the captain of the equipment support team. Irumahue suppressed his inner uneasiness and said, it would be great if I could know the inside information of the monster. The monster's entire body is wrapped in intense electromagnetic radiation, so it is simply a fantasy to send a reconnaissance plane to scan it. At this time, Horii seemed to have thought of something. If the investigation team's mechanical divine eye is still in that cloud, the divine eye transmits communications via satellite, maybe it can be used. Horii quickly walked to the computer, and after half a day's effort, he finally called up the divine eye that existed in the Yun group and was still working. Look at the screen. Horii called up a large set of data, including a data map of the cloud surrounding Fei in number 1. Vice Captain Zhong Fang pointed at a small black object and asked, what are those small black shadows? Metallic reaction. Horii had a bad feeling and zoomed in to take a look. That's a fragment of a probe. The truth has come out, Dr. Mizuno died in the line of duty. The cocoon fell off. Yerui reported the situation in real time. Chapter 26. Over the city. A huge black solid object fell from the sky, and the surrounding residents had no time to react. The tall buildings were shaken to the point of being on the verge of collapse. Sizzle. A monster with a flat body, like a bat with its wings spread, appeared in the urban area, with several pairs of eye-like things on its abdomen. The others might not know what it was, but based on the lightning man's habit of devouring his own kind, Yak and Fei in number 1 had already guessed it. Those were the eyes of Gazot's devoured companions. Zinken immediately warned, a monster has emerged from the cocoon, I'm going to attack. But now Lina was distracted by Daegyu's affairs, and it took her a while to react. Clear. After readjusting her status, Lina drove the Fei in 2 towards Gazot. The laser weapon installed on Fei in 2 continuously fired at the monster. Thanks to Yak's meticulous polishing, the current laser weapon is more than twice as powerful as the original version. The laser attacked the monster, causing a large amount of fire to burst out. Gazot was also startled by the sudden attack. He turned his head to look at the little fly that attacked him and let out an angry roar. Sizzle. Attack, eat you. Others may not understand, but Yak can. This child, Gazot, is really hungry. Fei in number 1 was shut down inside the cracked cocoon, Daegyu was unconscious, and only Yak was still sitting with his legs crossed, enjoying the air battle outside with relish. Lina, hovering in the air, finally found Fei in number 1 in the cocoon, and her heart was finally at ease. Is there any life reaction? Shinjo said, yes, but we have to stop the monster first and rescue them later. Understand. As the speed of Fian 2 was very fast, Gazot watched for a while but did not catch up with it. It was as if he decided that the two people on the plane were not enough to fill the gap in food. However, in the city not far away, there was a lot of food. Gazot, moving step by step towards the community full of people. There's food all over there. Shinjo and Lina tried their best to stop the monster from moving forward, but even under attack, Gazot did not stop. In the community, Gazot's shadow covered the sky. Go, don't stop. Seeing the monster approaching, the police continued to maintain order and guide the surging crowd. Sizzle. Seeing the food moving away from him, Gazot became unhappy. He opened his fang-filled mouth and spit out plasma bombs, blowing up the path ahead for the crowd in an attempt to delay time. Coincidentally, the radio was finally restored at this time. The people who were anxiously waiting in the command room finally heard Zinken's voice. Vice Captain Zhongfang asked, Zinken, can you hear me? Yes, Command. Zinken's voice came, making everyone breathe a sigh of relief. Hori, who was thinking on the side, finally came to a conclusion. Because of the progress of human civilization, a large amount of radio waves were sent to the ionosphere outside the Earth, which not only took away the place where the Lightning Man lived, but also changed its appearance. Yes, that must be the Flash Man. At this moment, the Yarui team members were also very anxious. Damn, what country's language is this? Language? You mean the Flash has a language? Hori quickly found a machine and said, start the Pan language translator. Maybe this can be translated. Is it really possible to talk to monsters? Iruma Hui's question was also the question raised by other people at the scene. A synonym for monster, brutality, and incommunicability. It is very likely that these creatures, which we humans have never encountered, belong to the same Earth. Hori said, the first contact brought misfortune to both sides, but as long as they could communicate, perhaps a war could be avoided. Do you think that's possible? I don't know, but I want to give it a try. Hori's eyes were filled with sadness and determination. This was the philosophy his mentor had always believed in, and now it was up to him to carry on. Dr. Mizuno once taught me that fantasy is beautiful. I want to inherit my teacher's last wish. After saying that, Hori turned around and prepared to start the experiment. Iruma Hui did not stop him because she also wanted to try and see if she could succeed. In the city, the monsters are getting closer and closer to humans. In order to stop Gazot, Fian 2 also made an emergency landing under the monster's plasma bomb. The Gazot destroyed the city's houses and buildings, just like a child seeing a new toy, it was dismantling building blocks. Hello, you are from the sky, right? Please stop the violence, okay? If it appeared out of nowhere, Gazot would be stunned. Could there be others of its kind? I looked around, but had no idea where the sound came from. Although this situation did not achieve the expected effect, it gave Hori hope for communication. At Hori's insistence, Captain Nakama granted him permission to communicate with the monster face to face. On site, Shinjo and Lina evacuated the people while confronting the monster. Facing the monster's roar, Zinken raised the dunk shooting gun in his hand. You want to eat us all, right? Pull the trigger, and the shotgun-like gun in your hand will shoot out a powerful laser, which can even be compared to the laser weapon installed on the original Fian No. 1. Zinken's shooting skills are very good, and he hits the monster directly in the eye. Gazot covered his eyes in pain and stepped back repeatedly. Look, Unit 1. Lina said, pointing at something in the distance. On Unit 1, Hori said through his helmet, stop attacking, don't provoke the monster. Xin Cheng was confused by these unbelievable words, what is that guy talking about? Hori took the Pan language translator and hurried towards Gazot, but was stopped by Shinjo and the other man. What are you going to do? I'm going to talk to the monster. Hori's words almost scared Shinjo to death. Others would want to move away immediately after seeing the monster, but you were still getting closer to the monster. Zinken said, are you crazy? That's a monster, it's attacking humans. Let me talk to it. Hori knew that no matter what he said now, it would be useless. He could only persevere and let everyone see the results. Faced with such a determined teammate, Zinken sighed and made way, really, I'll cover for you. Thank you. After saying that, Hori rushed towards the monster. At this time, Gazot spit out a large piece of clothes from its mouth. They were from the human it had just eaten. Hori took a deep breath and turned on the machine, hello, what's your name? My name is Horii. The language of the lightning man finally attracted the monster. We are not your enemies, we are your friends. The monster looked at the small food and said, Gazot. I like it. Seeing that his communication was effective, Horii continued, Gazot, is that your name? Please stop getting angry and stop attacking your friends. Friends, delicious. Hey? Is the translator broken? Horii was unable to react for a moment to the strange words. Friends, Gazot's food. Horii finally understood that his teacher, Dr. Mizuno, did not die in an accident, but was eaten by Gazot. Gazot, unable to hold back any longer, finally took action and wanted to eat Horii. Shinjo drove Unit 1 towards the monster, and Lena stepped forward regardless of the danger, continuously pulling the trigger on the hyper rifle in her hand. Stop! Stop! Lena shouted. Humans' calls are of no use to monsters. But, I just heard it. Chapter 27. Fiyin number 1 was turned off in the cocoon, and Daegyu woke up. He heard Lena calling him. He looked at the still unconscious Jack in the passenger seat and pressed the magic wand with confidence, then turned into a ball of light and disappeared. As soon as Daegyu left, Yak opened his eyes, kicked the cabin door open, and walked out swaggeringly. In the community, Horii's legs felt weak and he couldn't even lift them for a moment. The oppression that monsters bring to humanity is not something that can be overcome easily. At the critical moment, Ultraman Tiga appeared. Tiga kicked Gazot hard. After the monster retreated slightly, he quickly stepped forward, picked up Gazot, and threw it out. The situation finally improved. Lena ran forward and helped Horii, who had collapsed to the ground. Up, let's go, it's too dangerous here. Good good. Horii gasped with lingering fear. Sizzly. The beaten Gazot didn't understand what happened for a moment, but when he saw the food running away, he finally understood. The giant is the bad guy who interrupted its meal. Just like a child, Gazot has no clear concept of good and evil. It is very pure and only knows that someone doesn't let it eat. It felt aggrieved and angry, and it wanted to eat Tiga. Gazot got up and rushed towards Tiga, but he still lacked combat experience. He was lifted up again by Daegyu, and after spinning a few times, he threw it out again with a spinning throw. Gazot waved his arms in panic in the air, then fell to the ground, splashing up dust like a sandstorm. Daegyu, who has passed the novice period, is no longer the novice driver he once was. When he saw that Gazot was having difficulty getting up, he immediately jumped on Gazot and punched the eyes in the monster's abdomen again and again. Gazot, who had suffered repeated injuries, became extremely ferocious. He overturned Tiga, who was riding on him, with great force and hit him with his arms that looked like fish fins. However, he was too bad in actual combat and was dodged by Daegyu again and again. Daegyu, who seized the opportunity, was not so easy to deal with. He attacked Gazot's lower body fiercely and knocked the monster to his knees with 2 kicks. Then came a series of elbow strikes. From this point of view, the battle between Tiga and Gazot is almost one-sided. This was thanks to the previous hard battles. Although the addition of Yak added some twists and turns, it made Daegyu's heart more resilient than before. The light gathered in Tiga's palm, and he threw out an ultralight punch, hitting Gazot directly on the head. Huge energy filled Gazot's whole body, and the purple electric current seemed to bring Gazot great pain. Sizzle! Gazot fell to the ground, called out weakly a few times, and then became motionless. His once bright eyes were now dim. Gazot, dead? Daegyu was also confused. I haven't used my ultimate move yet. Am I so strong now? After waiting for a few seconds, Gazot still didn't move. Daegyu turned his back to the monster and looked at Lena not far away, ready to nod and say goodbye. He, an overconfident warrior will suffer. A man exuding an ominous aura stood on the tall building closest to the giant and looked at Tiga. Hello, dear Guang, do you still remember me? That extremely malicious aura instantly made Daegyu remember it. During the battle with the Kurioids, this aura flashed by and then disappeared. Such an obvious meeting quickly attracted the attention of the victory team. Headquarters, this is Lena. I found that Tiga seemed to be talking to someone. That person was covered in armor, and looked very evil. Lena immediately reported the situation. Headquarters received it and started recording immediately. The voice of team member Yerui came. Daegyu immediately became alert. This guy didn't look like a good person. Who are you? What are you planning? Attempt? Ha 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 ha. Yake laughed out loud. First, let me introduce myself. My name is Fang Zhou and I'm a traveler. As for my intentions. Yake paused and said mysteriously, I'm here to remind you to be careful. Be careful about what? Daegyu was stunned. Is this guy called Fang Zhou so idle? Tiga, watch out behind you. Lena suddenly shouted at Daegyu. Facing Lena's words, Daegyu subconsciously dodged, but was still bitten on the shoulder by a big mouth. Gazot is alive. It was just pretending to be dead. Originally, Gazot was aiming at the neck, but fortunately Lena reminded him in time, so he barely escaped. The monster bit Tiga's shoulder tightly, piercing his skin and absorbing Tiga's energy. Yake said with a grin, see, I told you to be careful. After saying that, he tapped his belt lightly. Malice, terror, anger, hatred, despair. Promote the program sublimation key. Perfect conclusion. Learning 5. Endless malice gathered and condensed, and the wail of hell roared at this moment. Yak raised his hand and aimed it at Gazot's head. A violent explosion occurred at the monster's head, and the malicious impact made Gazot dizzy. Sizzle. It hurts, it hurts. The physical pain was secondary. The sense of loss caused by the erosion of the soul made Zoge extremely painful. Giant, damn daddy. Jack greeted with a smile, then sat aside to watch the show. Zoge, who was trying to endure the pain, opened his eyes and saw the confused Daegyu, and he was furious. Gazot spit out plasma bullets. Because of the light boxing and the bite of Tiga just now, Gazot is now full of energy. Daegyu dodged quickly, transformed into an aerial form, and jumped up. Gazot was originally a mutated lightning man, and he immediately flew up and chased after him. The two chased each other, one in front and one behind, and occasionally collided with each other. Gazot didn't care at all and poured out plasma bombs like they were free. A series of explosions went off in the city. There were ruins everywhere, and almost all of the area within a 10-mile radius had been reduced to ruins by the Gazot bombing. Except, where Yak is. It's really wonderful. Jack, who was on the tall building, kicked away the light bullet that fell on his head and took a few photos with interest while holding up his camera. Photo, Superman vs. Batman. Characters, Ultraman Tiga, Gazot. Travel points, 400. Above the sky, Tiga covered the wound with his hand, and with the help of his healing ability, the wound gradually healed. During this period, Daegyu was also hit by 2 light bullets, and the timer on his chest began to flash red. Tiga put his hands together and released a flash blast to shatter a light bullet. After the light wave of the explosion, Gazot discovered that the giant was gone. Using his speed advantage, Tiga moved above the monster and swooped down towards Gazot. Using the kinetic energy generated by speed and body weight, he unleashed a life-threatening attack that Gazot had no time to dodge. Gazot fell into the ruins. It had exhausted its energy due to spitting out light bullets and fighting for a long time. Just when Daegyu was about to use his ultimate move to kill Gazot, a blue light brushed past Tiga's shoulder and hit Gazot. In an instant, Gazot turned into a stone statue. What's the situation? Someone is grabbing the head. Turning around, I saw another monster, that was Gakuma Beta. Standing on Gakuma's head was the Arc-Yak. Pet, Rock Monster Gakuma. Race, Monster. Abilities, Petrification Ray, Underground Movement, Underground Radar Angle, Back Ray. Growth Value, 75%. Note, when the growth value reaches 100%, you can add materials for fusion and sublimation. Before Daegyu, Yak let Gakuma grab the head, and it actually increased by 10%. You. Daegyu looked at Yak in disbelief. Thank you for your kind gift. Yak bowed politely and disappeared with Gakuma. Sunset. Daegyu supported Yak, who pretended to be a little weak, and walked slowly towards them. Lena, anxious to show her concern, quickly ran up to ask about his well-being. In the distance, Zoge's body was slowly turning into a point of light and moving away into the sky. So beautiful, just like an angel. Horii exclaimed. Team Horii. Exist. Yak suddenly called Horii and said meaningfully, your teacher's will is inherited by you. I don't object to this idea, but we must understand that the will of peace must be wrapped in a sharp sword. Understand? Horii said seriously. Chapter 28. Please note, this is the Delta Space Station. The spacecraft is currently on a collision course with this space station. Please change the route immediately. Change course. Inside the space station, Nanace's agency issued a warning to the approaching spacecraft, which did not respond. 4 minutes left until impact, the intelligence system announced. At the same time, Yake sat on the chair with a resentful look on his face. Who would have thought that I would have to get up in the middle of the night to work the night shift? Damn alien spaceship, damn alien rat. Kill you guys. Kill you guys. Kill you guys. What's the situation? Director Sawai also looked tired. He walked slowly into the command room and sat next to Yak. Yake yawned and said, after our search, we found that no spaceship has departed from Earth recently, so the alien spaceship is likely to be carrying aliens. We called out to him, but there was no answer. Therefore, on behalf of the Victory Team and the Equipment Support Team, I strongly suggest that you launch an attack immediately and then go back to sleep. Working in the middle of the night, Jack's resentment was heavier than that of a ghost. Director Sawai shook his head helplessly and asked, is he going to invade? It doesn't seem like it. Maybe there was an accident, said the captain of the mediation team. Yake muttered, you're not invading me, but you're not replying. You're just a dumb alien. It's better to kill him with one shot. Is there any way to avoid it? What Yak said seemed to make some sense, but Director Sawai did not want to conflict with the aliens. The enemy's spaceship is too fast, we can't avoid it. Nanace agency explained. As time goes by, Director Sawai must make a decision. What's the range of the Bakir gun? Just entered range. The adjutant replied. Nanace agency said sternly to the alien spacecraft, I am Nanace from Delta. If you don't answer, we will blow up your spacecraft. Please answer. There are 3 minutes left until the collision, the intelligence system announced. There is no other way. Fire the Bakir cannon and blow up the enemy's spaceship. Wait, maybe an accident happened, please give them some time. Facing Director Sawai's order, Nanace Makoto still wanted to fight for it. But this action made Lena's heart surge. Director Sawai stood up and said, the lives of the 278 people on the space station are more important than anything else. Fire the Bakir cannon immediately. Clear. The Nanace agency was silent for a while and then launched an attack. The Bakir cannon, as the main gun of the Delta space station, is extremely powerful. It can shatter a spacecraft with one strike. Only one lifeboat managed to escape the huge shock wave. Crisis resolved. Director Sawai said, Nanace agency, what would happen if the Bakir cannon was fired 15 seconds later? Nanace agency, take the next spaceship to report back to headquarters. After saying that, he left the command room. Lena looked at the lonely man on the screen and couldn't help feeling sad. Captain Narima noticed this keenly and stepped forward to say, Nanace agency did its best to avoid blowing up the ship until the very end. I think he is amazing. That person has nothing to do with me. After saying this, Lena hurriedly fled. Looking at Lena's leaving back, Yake patted Dagu beside him and said, Dagu, catch up with her and comfort her. What? Oh shit, go away. Yak pushed Dagu out with a look of disgust. No wonder he hasn't had a girlfriend for so long, he deserves it. In the universe, a flat-shaped spaceship is heading towards the blue Earth. Nanace Kiku was holding a lipstick in his hand, which was a gift he wanted to give to his daughter when he left. Is she willing to accept it now? Asamiya noticed Nanace Makoto's concerns and stepped forward to comfort him, your daughter is amazing. She is now a pilot for the Victory Team. Like father, like daughter. Nanace Makoto thought about how he had abandoned his daughter for his career, and he felt infinite regret in his heart, I am a man who abandoned his family. Are you going to abandon me too? Asamiya's teasing livened up the atmosphere. Ha 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 ha. The two looked at each other and laughed. Boom. 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 Suddenly there was an explosion and the whole spaceship shook violently. They were attacked. Change route, we are about to enter the atmosphere. Nanace Makoto immediately calmed down. Asamiya also immediately sent a message to the Far East headquarters, Headquarters, this is Asamiya, we are under attack, under attack. The spacecraft increased its speed and rushed into the atmosphere. The scorching flames burned the outer shell red, as if it was wrapped in flames. But the attacking alien ship obviously didn't want to let the two get away, and shot 2 accurate lasers, hitting the engine. The spacecraft is shutting down. Falling. In the temporary room of the Far East headquarters, Yak fell asleep again and was woken up by Daegu. I'll give you a chance to explain why you woke me up. If I'm not satisfied, you can prepare the bones and boil them into soup. Veins popped out on Jack's forehead, and behind his stiff smile was the resentment that came from not waking up yet. Being on duty was annoying enough, but not being able to eat Sister Yuana's meal was even more annoying, and I was repeatedly pulled up to work overtime. We just received news that the spaceship that the Nanes agency was on was suddenly shot down. Aha! Yak's face was full of surprise. Is there any organization on Earth that is so courageous? Inside the commander's room, Irumake asked in confusion, what happened? The spacecraft of Nanes agency was hit and is now descending, said Nori. These words happened to be heard by Lena, who walked in. These short sentences made Lena's mind go blank in an instant. He stumbled out and knocked down Horii, who had just entered the room. What is going on here? Horii pointed at Lena's disappearing back. Team Lena, if you hear me, please answer. On Fiyin number 1, Lena stared at the open exit, her mind full of the image of her father leaving. She ignored the captain's words. Preparation for takeoff is complete, ready to go. According to normal procedures, if pilot Lena wants to set off on the Fiyin, she must get the captain's order. Now, Lena acted on her own, but still succeeded. The reason is Yak. The equipment support team took full control of all matters of the operations department except combat. In fact, the support team did not have such great power, but Ake's efficiency was so high that Director Sawai and Megami Iruma did not say anything, so it just happened naturally. Lena's successful going out was actually Yak's tacit consent. What the hell is going on? Captain Ark. Everyone's eyes turned to the sleepy Yak. Everyone knows that, in the entire operations department, except for the victory team's Huayakari, the rest basically listened to Yak. Yak said slowly, in fact, Lena's original surname was Nanes, and Nanes Jijin was Lena's biological father who left 13 years ago. Now that something has happened to Nanes agency, Lena, as her daughter, is naturally concerned. As the captain of the support team, he is also Lena's good friend. I have an obligation to help her. So Captain, you already knew it. Daegu widened his eyes in surprise. Ahoy! Yak raised an eyebrow and said, knowing the team member's own situation is a compulsory course for the captain. Now, it's time to act, everyone. Understand? Chapter 29. Where the spacecraft crashed, the outer shells were scattered everywhere. Nanes, hold on. Asamiya gritted his teeth and, ignoring his still bleeding shoulder, carried Nanes Makoto to a safe place. The huge shock of the spacecraft crashing made Nanes Makoto a little unconscious. He tightly grasped the lipstick in his hand. Lena. I haven't given her a gift for 13 years. I must give it to her this time. Asamiya smiled and carefully put the lipstick into Nanes Makoto's chest pocket. Immediately, Nanes Makoto woke up. Where is this? This is Earth. We are home. It looks like I owe you another favor. Nanes Makoto was helped up, and a strange-looking humanoid creature appeared in front of him. If Yak was at the scene, he would definitely recognize it on the spot. It was an inferior, evil, alien, the Ryuran. The Ryuran raised his hand and pointed it at them, and in an instant, Nanes Makoto felt the danger of death. Asamiya, be careful. In the crisis, Nanes Makoto, who was originally a little exhausted, didn't know where he got the strength from. He suddenly stood up, pushed Asamiya away, and fell to the side with the help of the force. A destructive ray of light shot out from the palm of the Lycaolan alien. The red beam passed through the place where Chao Gong had just stood and landed on a huge ancient tree. In an instant, the entire ancient tree was ignited and burned to charcoal in a few seconds. Chao Gong was pushed away, rolled on the gentle slope, and stopped after hitting a rock. Fortunately, he was protected by a helmet and just fainted. Faced with the escaped human, the Ryuran star didn't care. You must be Nanes from the space station. Who are you? Nanes Makoto asked warily. You blew up our spaceship, and my companions were killed in the explosion. I came to seek revenge on you. The Ryuran accuses Nanes Makoto of atrocities. But, the Ryulans would actually avenge their companions? If Jack saw this scene, he would be laughed to death by its shameless words. The inferior, evil, minds of the Ryulans are only cruel and violent, with cold-blooded and indifferent thoughts, and are good at using despicable tactics. To them, companions and friends are little more than tools. As for revenge for a companion? This. Nanace Makoto was speechless and was frightened for a moment. Follow me. The Raichu sneered and took him back to his spaceship. Inside the spacecraft, Nanace Makoto was hung on a cross, unconscious. The Raichu activated the memory extraction device, and a red dot slowly moved to the center of Nanace Makoto's eyebrows. In an instant, all the information about the Earth and TPC was retrieved. This way, the strategy for invading Earth is perfect. The Raichu sneered. This device can indeed extract memories, but it has a drawback. That is, the people you extract cannot resist, which is why the Raichu people did not stop the spaceship. The purpose is to let Nanace Makoto kill his companions in order to break down Nanace Makoto's psychological defenses. In this way, not only can he invade the Earth, but he also does not have to share the credit. Simply kill two birds with one stone. Just when I was feeling proud, the memory on the screen suddenly stopped. All the top-secret information disappeared, and a little girl spoke instead. Let's make a promise and keep our promise for 100 years. What's the situation? The eyes of the Raichu switched back and forth between blue and red. The signal eye on his head represents his mood at the moment, and its color changes with his emotions. The Raichu increased its power. It couldn't believe that a human had such great perseverance. But the higher the power, the older the little girl on the screen gradually became, and finally she turned into Lena. We'll make a promise and stick to it for 100 years. Red, the eyes of the Raichu were red. At the same time, Yak also led the group to the scene. Listen carefully, everyone. We will start from the predicted landing site and search in the direction of the wind farm. Understood. Everyone nodded. Dagu, you have another mission. Dagu, who was about to take action, was suddenly stopped. Go and bring back the girl who violated the rules. Yak winked at Dagu and said with a smile, remember to be gentle. Yes. There was no sound in the dark jungle. The lonely cold wind blew past the leaves, and the thick grey fog seemed to have no end. Lena walked on the bumpy path, taking one step deep and one step shallow, feeling a little scared. In the shadows, a figure approached quickly and quietly followed Lena's footsteps. Hey! A hand was placed on Lena's shoulder. Ah! Lena screamed in panic. The dead silence and the danger of her father made this originally strong girl tense. No, it's me, Lena, I'm Dagu. Dagu. Lena opened her eyes and took a quick glance, it was true. Soon, the original fear suddenly disappeared, and shyness was like a rapidly climbing Fian. In just one breath, Lena's face turned red. Dagu asked in confusion, Lena, what's wrong with you? Are you hot? No, but, Dagu, you almost scared me to death. In order to hide her blushing, Lena pretended to be angry and punched Dagu on the chest. The two walked one in front and one behind in the dim jungle. Lena looked at Dagu's shoulder, and her fear was instantly driven away. A warm current that she couldn't describe made her feel extremely at ease. Dagu, why are you here? The Nanace Agency's spaceship made an emergency landing. As the winning team, of course we have to come and look for it. Besides, the Nanace Agency is your father. Dagu said seriously, then Captain Yake specifically asked me to come to you and said he would take you back and punish you to write a 5,000-word self-criticism. At first, Lena sounded happy, but when she said it was Jack who asked her to come, her face instantly fell. Captain Ark. It's Captain Ark again. You call me Captain Yak every day, but you don't even look at me. AQ. Yak, who was hiding in a dark corner and secretly observing the two of them, sneezed. As Godzilla, Ark wouldn't even get sick, so how could he catch a cold because of this little temperature? Tisk, someone is scolding me. Dagu keenly noticed that there was something wrong with Lena's emotions, but, her focus was a little strange. Don't be sad, Lena. Captain Yake may look lazy, but he is a very good person. I will help you write this 5,000-word review. Dagu patted his chest and said proudly, I have experience in this. I often help Captain Yake write self-criticisms, applications, and reports. I am very familiar with it. These words made Yak, who was hiding in the corner, feel a little embarrassed. Whether it was an application for a pay raise, a review after firing someone, or a report for increasing the budget, Dagu basically helped write it. What can I say, team member Lena, your Dagu is really useful. Yak, who was stuck in the vicious circle of should I ask Dagu to write a self-criticism again, smelled something different. That's the smell of alien rat. Chapter 30. I was only 9 years old when my parents divorced. My father was very busy at work at that time and had no time to take care of the family, so my mother decided to leave him. Lena looked sad. Her parents' divorce might have been the pain she had been feeling for so many years, so I just. But I know that you still care about your father, right? Daegu said. I do not have. Lena blurted out, but quickly turned her head away. I am really conflicted. When I came to my senses, I was already sitting on the victory swallow no one. The inner conflict still did not stop the girl from taking action. Drop drop drop. A message came into Daegyu's helmet. This is Daegu, Captain, please answer. Daeko, according to the latest news, the one that attacked the Nanes agency was an alien spacecraft. We found Mr. Asamiya, a colleague of the Nanes agency, near the remains of the Delta spacecraft. Yake reminded, after you find Lena, reunite with us as soon as possible. If you encounter any unknown creatures, shoot without hesitation. Clear. Yak sat on the tree and looked at the two young men below. After receiving the message, Daegu said to Lena, let's go back quickly and meet up with the others to find the Nanes agency together. Okay, Daegu, be careful. Lena quickly drew her gun and fired forward. Tweet, tweet, tweet. 2 shots to the chest and 1 to the head. Lena demonstrated the 3-point shooting method to the fullest, and her reaction speed exceeded 99% of humans. The laser hit the suddenly appearing Ryuran, but passed right through it without causing any damage. It's no use, this is not a physical entity. Daegu grabbed Lena's hand and stood in front of Lena. Who are you? The Ryuran alien raised his hand indifferently and released a capturing ray. The ring-shaped energy bypassed Daegu and tightened Lena. When Daegu came to his senses again, Lena had disappeared. Lena. I accept Nanes Makoto's daughter, but you human, go die. The Ryulan released destructive rays at Daeko. Daeko, who did not transform into a giant, had physical fitness that could only be considered the limit of human beings, but it was still within the human category. It's still a little bit worse than the aliens. Daegu barely dodged the destructive rays several times, but he missed a step and rolled down the steep slope. Ha 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 ha. The Ryuran laughed triumphantly, turned around and disappeared. At the bottom of the weed-covered slope, Yak jumped down from the tree, squatted in front of Daegu and touched his neck. Well, still alive. Seeing that Daegu was fine, Yak stood up and flew towards the Ryulan spaceship. Inside the alien escape ship, Nanes Makoto, who was nailed to the cross, was lowered, a thick fog flashed by, and Lena was hung on it. Lena. Facing Nanes Makoto's astonished expression, the Ryuran said proudly, this is your daughter, right? Nanes Makoto looked at his grown-up daughter, whose long hair had been cut off, and thought about how he had been away from her for 13 years and how he had missed so many moments of her growth. Regret. Unwilling to. Guilt. All the guilt he felt towards his daughter made him speechless, and he didn't know how to express his longing for his daughter. You should thank me. I reunited you with your daughter. The Ryurans were very pleased with themselves. If you really count it this way, it is not wrong. If it weren't for this incident, Nanes Makoto would have to continue working in the Delta space station, and the time for returning to Earth would have been endless. Nanes Makoto looked at his daughter reluctantly, gritted his teeth and said cruelly, I don't have a daughter at all, I don't know her. Every time he spoke a word, his heart felt like it was being stabbed by a knife. The Lyardan asked, what? You said she's not your daughter at all. No, I haven't seen her at all. Nanes Makoto answered expressionlessly, but his tightly clenched fingernails had already pierced into his palms. After receiving the reply, the Lyardan alien sneered and moved his hand on the operator. A strong electric current burst out from the cross, tormenting Lena. Stop! Stop it! At this moment, Nanes Makoto could no longer bear it. He rushed forward angrily and wanted to save his daughter, but was stopped by a transparent wall. The huge rebound force of the wall threw the already old and frail Nanes Makoto away, and the lipstick in his pocket also rolled out. Lena saw this scene clearly. She remembered that she had told her father that she wanted a lipstick, and it turned out that he had always remembered it. The Lyardan said nonchalantly, why would you protect a girl you don't even know? Isn't it me you want? Don't do anything to her. Come to me if you have anything to say. Nanace Makoto glared at the shameless alien in front of him. My wife and my little daughter were also on board the spacecraft you blew up. The Raichu Lan wanted to continue to expand Nanace Makoto's guilt so that he could carry out his plan. I will also make you suffer the same hellish pain as I did. Wow, this is really something new. A surprised voice echoed in the spacecraft. Boom. 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 After 3 loud bangs, the tightly closed door of the spacecraft was actually hammered open. A man in casual clothes looked around curiously, and when he found Lena hanging there, he greeted her with surprise. Team Lena, I'm here to catch you and take you back to write a self-criticism. Captain Ark. Ark's forceful way of opening the door shocked Raichu Lan and Nanace Makoto. On the other hand, Lena is much better. After all, Ark, who is nicknamed Captain of Super Strength, is very powerful. It's pitch black in here and smells like alien rats. Yake squinted his eyes and said, Inferior spaceman, a despicable and shameless rat, and you still think I have a deep love for my husband and wife. Who are you? And I am an evil alien, said the Reiki-Alan alien. Yake ignored it and said to Nanace Makoto, Nanace Agency, don't believe the nonsense of this garbage alien rat. The inferior aliens are notoriously shameless in the universe. In their eyes, wives and children are just tools. I guess your act of blowing up the spaceship was also planned by them. These words almost completely criticized the people of the Raichu Lan star. Most importantly, they are all correct. Human, you deserve to die. The eyes of the Reiki-Alan alien turned red, and he raised his hand to release a destructive ray, trying to kill Yak. But this level of attack was as slow as a snail in Jack's eyes. After dodging it easily, Yak immediately moved forward. Nanace Makoto saw this and quickly reminded, be careful of the wall. Bang! The wall that was so solid just now was smashed into pieces by Jack's punch. A low-quality alien, hey? Take a few punches first. Yak punched the alien on the head, and the huge force directly knocked the Raichuran away. But Jack did not give up and continued to chase him, launching a series of attacks including elbow strikes, whip kicks and swinging punches, which rained down on the Reiki-Alan alien. 7 seconds, a full 7 seconds. The Reiki-Alan alien stayed in the air for 7 seconds without falling. Lena, is your captain so brutal? Nanace Makoto put his daughter down and looked at Yak's ferocious attack like a beast, his eyes twitching a little. Is this really a human?